Oh, dude. So ASMR is like this new weird subsection of like live streaming where it's like binaural and you can hear it in your ears.
Yeah, I'm like that's like my biggest. I just don't like that. That's like when I hear people's noises like that. Like,
And it's weird because what they have like this machine that has ears on it, and they'll like sit there and tickle your ears or like comb your ears and turn on some reverb, and it's just
oh,
weird.
I thought you were talking about the thing where it's like people get into the mic and they're like,
No, that's
Oh,
it. That's
that's
it.
it.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
like that's like the advanced like master
okay.
fetish box.
yeah, no, that's I can't. I don't even like to hear myself chew. So like, my girlfriend, she's the same way now because I've rubbed off on her. She sent that to me one day, and my head almost exploded.
That's like your peeve is like mouth noises.
100%.
I had a buddy growing up who was like that. We'd be out eating and he'd be like, "Bro, shut the fuck up."
Is that, do you eat like that?
I'm obnoxious, I guess, when I eat.
Oh yeah.
But I guess he kind of trained us to like shut the hell up.
Yeah, from when I was super little, it's been like
Everyone's got their weird tics, man.
I have a lot of them.
Let me intro this. What's up, guys? Welcome back to That's the Angle. And today I'm joined with David. Oh my God. Literally, that was so subconscious because I watched a podcast last night where the guy was like, "Oh, shout out to people who call you, who don't say David." And I just, Davin Gentry, someone who I have been highly looking forward to interviewing for quite some time, ever since I kind of become aware of just like you and your entire ecosystem.
Nice. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, yo, and shout out to Pierre.
Oh yeah, Pierre.
For linking this.
Of course, he called. I was watching a movie, and I was like, "I'll call you right back." He's like, "Don't even trip. Just check your voicemail." And he was like, "I just finished this podcast, and I told him you would do it, so there's no negotiation." So, but I mean, I'm super excited to kind of jump on these things and tell my story and just kind of, I don't know, everyone that I do, I've only done like 5 or 6, but everyone that I do, they ask questions that are slightly different from the other one. So no matter how I tell the story, it's always kind of navigated differently by the person interviewing me. So I'm super excited to see where we take this one.
Yeah, I tend to just have like a conversation and I have like bullet points in my mind. This isn't one of those like inspirational podcasts where I'm like, you can do it. You can hustle.
That's not me either.
That's not me. I mean, I guess some people get that out of it, but I think the point of it is like you just kind of talk and then you unlock these things out of your mind. And hopefully through conversation, someone's like, yo, I relate the hell out of that.
Well, and the thing with me is along the way through like the conversation, I'm always kind of like reminded of my story and things that I don't think about on a daily basis. So it's always good for me to just kind of like have those conversations and think like, oh wow, like I actually like came like a long way from when I first started. So
yeah, it's like you get to reflect.
Exactly. And I don't do that often. I don't reflect much. I'm kind of like so caught up in what's happening now or like the future that I don't reflect on like what it took to get to this point. So these are always kind of like therapeutic for me, I guess.
Yeah, it 100%. For the first time, not in a long time, someone interviewed me, and it felt so good to just talk about yourself in a way that no one can judge you because, like,
of course,
take the excuse of podcast.
Of course.
And it's crazy because someone like you, you have to look forward. You do so many things that you couldn't just keep looking back, or else you just get stuck, or you just progress doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I speak from like a team standpoint a lot of the times, but we've had a lot of like ups and downs like through. I mean, I've been doing this since like me personally since like 2004.
And just real quick, since I botched that intro, I did not mention that you were a fashion designer.
Okay. Do you want to do your intro? Or?
Oh no, that was it. I just want people to have a little context and know that you're just an epic fashion designer. So
yeah. So I mean, really since like 2004, I've been doing this, and we've had like a lot of ups and downs. And so I don't even remember what the statement was that led me to that. But I don't know. Guess we'll just have to. Oh, I think it was about looking back.
Yeah.
And I used to kind of like dwell on the past, like, oh, this mistake like messed me up, or like I'm never gonna get out of out of that rut because of X, Y, and Z. And now it's just kind of like, I just realized, I think about last year, maybe late 2017, I just realized that like dwelling on the past isn't really gonna help the future at all. Like it may help in the sense of like you may not make the same mistakes you made in the past, but I just kind of decided to focus more on the future, and instead of just like thinking about what the negative and this and that, it just that does nothing.
Was there a
any
moment
good.
that like triggered that thought, or that was kind of like the catharsis to that whole kind of state of mind?
There wasn't really one thing that switched, I guess. I think it was just like a gradual switch. And I'm like, obviously like everybody, I'm like a work in progress. So like every day is like a new, I guess kind of like, I don't know, a new day to kind of improve myself.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I was at a point where I was wasting a lot of time trying to perfect every little step. And it was actually causing me to be less productive.
Dude, that right there is so huge.
Of course.
As an artist, as anything, is that you get so caught up in these small details and you just miss the bigger picture, that it's like you're so much better off putting out something that's 80% of what it could be and just letting the public do it than waiting 6 months to get it out instead of that week, just because it's not 100.
Well, and that's how I was. I would work on the design for like, let's say like a week or a couple weeks. And then every day when you come back to that same design, you're seeing something that you dislike. And so you keep trying to make something perfect, and you end up just being less productive by wasting so much time.
100%.
So, I mean, in today's game is all about consistency over quality, to be honest. Like when I first started Premium 2000, we started 2011, my fault.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
And the name of the game then was quality over quantity. And nowadays it's honestly, it's quantity over quality. And I mean, obviously you still want to have like a level of quality with that, but sometimes getting that quality to where you're happy with it was like I said, it might take me weeks to do something. So I wasn't putting out the amount of work that I could have been, because I wasn't like realizing like, okay, like this is good, let's move on to the next thing. And then once I realized that, like that's when we started Diet. That's kind of like the first, that was kind of like the first like notch in Diet that really like resonated, because I was like, I'm not going to dwell on every little step along the way like I did with Premium. I'm just going to put out as much content and product as I can and get it to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm good with this. Whether it may not be 100% what I want, but it's good enough. And 99% of the time, like what is like a 50% to me is like a 99% to the consumer. So
because you see it, that little thing, or that little, I don't know, I guess in your industry it's like the material or something that wasn't exactly that mystic print graphic, but no one notices those little things.
Of course not. And I mean, every industry, like you're in photography, so there's probably instances where you zoom in on a picture and you're like trying to fix the smallest little thing that the normal eye isn't gonna recognize. And so
they're not going to see that small pimple that I'm like 200 times zoomed up on that face, especially when it's just going to live on Instagram. But on that same tip, something that was like, yo, I really fuck with everything this guy and his crew like does. It was when I read your mantra behind Diet Starts Monday. It was that yellow piece of paper, and it was that first paragraph. It was like, no procrastination, we get it done today. And I'm kind of paraphrasing there.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful, because that was something that I always lived with, this procrastination. I think everyone procrastinates, and we're always our worst critic. But, you know, I used to produce music way back when, like a different life, and I would never get anything done because I'd go to sleep, wake up a week later, oh, that kick drum's off, that synth is off, that thing is off. And so when I saw that, I was like, yo, these guys get it. Like it's about your output, and like it's like the quality progresses naturally with what you do.
Right. Well, and like I said, I've been designing since 2004. I went to college for graphic design and advertising.
No way. Where'd you go?
Western Kentucky. So I'm originally from Kentucky, Madisonville.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. That was something that low key broke my heart when you weren't from DC. I was like, oh no.
No, yeah, and I'll never tell anybody that I am. I'll like, I'm proud to have been in the area for the last like almost 10 years, like 8-9 years. But yeah, I'm born and raised Kentucky kid. I moved to Hampton in like 2011 or 12.
Norfolk.
So I was in Hampton, but that's like across the bridge from Norfolk.
Norfolk and Hampton. Yeah.
So Hampton, Newport News. I was closer to like Newport News than Norfolk, but my girlfriend went to Old Dominion. So, and then her sister went to Hampton. So we were down there for like 4 years or 3 or 4 years. And then I came up here, but yeah, I went to school at Western Kentucky. And I've been designing since really, even before that, I was like an artist, but I wasn't thinking like fashion or anything like that.
What kind of triggered the whole, I want to use my graphic design for fashion? What was?
It was kind of like you said, it was just kind of a natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
At first, so it's actually, I guess it was kind of like a backtrack and then a progression, because at first it was fashion before graphic design. So at first it was me like hand painting shirts. And I did that from like 2004 until like 2010.
Was that in college or is that like in high school?
No, so that was when I was graduating high school is when it was kind of like presented to me.
Mm.
And then my freshman year of college is when it kind of like, that's when I started doing it a little more and like selling it to people. At first it was just for me and then like friends. And then like 2005 is when I started like selling. Like at first it was like a friend would bring me his shirt and I would paint it for like $10.
Were you spray painting or what was like
both?
The process?
So at first it was spray paint. Cause I was always like, I wasn't like a painter. I could draw until I started making these clothes. So at first it was spray paint. I would draw on the piece of paper and I would cut out stencils and then I would spray paint that just like a stencil artist or whatever. And then I realized that like once you wash that, the paint just kind of like fades away or whatever. So I was like, what can I use that's a little more like durable and long lasting? And so then I started switching to like Tulips, and there's like all these other brands that make like fabric paint. And then that's when it started like progressing into actually hand painting with a brush. And I mean, that's what taught me how to paint was like,
oh really?
Yeah. I didn't take any classes on painting. I knew I could draw. So I would at first it started with me drawing on the shirt and then going in and painting over it. Kind of like I would make the outlines or whatever, and then I would come in and paint on top of it. And then
it wasn't like freeform or anything.
No, yeah. But then it got to that to where I could just take the brush, like dip it in whatever paint, and then like it was like, I mean, I was a natural. I mean, I was an artist by that point, which, like I said, that was 2004 to 2010, 11. But through
a long time,
it was,
it's a long
and
time
that was
you were painting t-shirts.
Yeah,
man.
that was. I mean, I did like. And I could pull it up, but I have like anybody that's my friend on Facebook can go to like my old albums, because Instagram obviously wasn't around yet.
Nah.
But I might do like 10, 20 shirts a week. And these are shirts that would take like a few hours to do. And it got from where, like I said, I was charging like friends like $10 to spray paint their shirt. And then it got up to where I was charging like 50, 60, 75, depending on what it was.
You're making some pretty serious money at that time.
Yeah, that was my full-time job really from, like I said, 2004 until 2011. I only had one job in between that period of time. Well, actually, I take that back. I had two. One was I worked at Old Navy as like a...
that retail life.
Yeah, but I was like receiving. So like the shipment would come in on the truck. we would come in at like 5:30, and we would take everything, like break it down and display it. And then, but I only did that for like,
Dude, retail is one of those soul draining jobs that you have so much time to think, and you're just like, what can I do? What do I like to do that's going to get me the hell out of this place? Making, at that point, it was like $7.50 an hour.
Yeah, maybe. And I was in Kentucky, so minimum wage is probably like $7.50 now. So I was probably making like $6. Who knows?
Jesus.
But the reason why I even had that job, I was painting, and I was making enough money painting to pay my bills. My rent. Actually, I was still in the dorm when I worked at Old Navy, but
it's all the colleges, years. That's some good college money, man.
But the reason why I even got the job was my mom, up until probably like 5 years ago, she always pushed like some type of steady career. I mean, and she was an entrepreneur. She was a hairdresser for, I mean, really the first 18 years of my life. And then once I graduated high school, she went back to college and became a nurse. And now, so she's still a nurse now, but
it's interesting with parents when they want you to have that steady job, because it's from a place of love.
Of course. Oh, and then she came from like the entrepreneur side, so she knew how unstable it could be. But after like 5-6 years of her like trying to pound that into my head, she was like, look, like, do whatever is going to make you happy. Damn. Obviously, like, you working for these other people, you're way too creative to be like working retail at Old Navy.
And she must have seen that you were making some kind of money.
Yeah, she did, but it wasn't like enough to where I could like get healthcare and like stuff like that. That was a big thing for her. Is like, you need somebody with benefits. And
it sounds like my mom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it sounds like everybody's mom. But now she's like, I'm glad that you didn't listen, because you may not have wound up to be like what you are now. But yeah, so I worked at Old Navy for, a handful of months. And then I also worked at a community center painting shirts. So doing the same art that I was selling, I got hired by a company to teach in like some housing projects for like a community center.
So you were gaining some like notoriety of kind of this like custom.
Yeah, I won awards for it. I won like a couple clothing line of the year awards, and like, I don't know what the trophies say. I have the trophies on my desk. I think one is probably like 2008 and maybe 2009 or something like that. But also during that same time, like 2005 is when I went to Western Kentucky. And that's when I started graphic design. And at first there was the same thing, like doing stuff for dirt cheap, because I didn't really have like a skill set yet. But then I built up like a decent set of tools where I could make some money off of it. And then the graphic design just kind of like blew past the hand painting shirts. But I was like doing both level at the same time. Me and my roommate, Sean, who's one of the most talented, lazy people I know. Now he's like kicking out of the laziness. We talk about it, so like he'll know. But
one of those friends you're always like, bro, please, like, make more content. Post
yeah,
more,
he's just like,
make more art.
He's
like, you see their greatness in them more than they see it.
Of course. And he knows that he's great, but he also knows that he's lazy. And I say he is, but he was. Like, I don't know his work ethic now, but we lived together in college. We got an apartment together, and there were 4 of us. 3 of us were all in graphic design. Whoa. And he's from Madisonville as well. And we had art class together in high school, but he's just one of those like natural artists that like, he can look at this room and draw everything to the correct perspective and like proportions and everything. And I'm not good at perspective. I'm not good at like proportions.
It's like talent out of the ears. Yeah. You're just like, God dang it.
But so we'd always joke like, we're going to start this like agency, and it'll be this like full creative agency and do this and that, which we never did it. But those years where we lived together was like him painting shirts, me painting shirts, me doing graphic design, him doing graphic design, our other roommate, John, he was doing graphic design. And so it was kind of like this,
It's like a cool collective. Like,
like
everyone's
a-
just sort of bouncing and inspiring each other.
yeah, it was like a
That's
hub,
wicked.
like, well, I don't know what the phrase is, like steel sharpens steel or something like that.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like this like graphic sparring. Like I would show them what I'm working on, which they'll always say I was the best, which I was, but like we would literally we would just have graphic design projects, like not for school, just like commission stuff. Like I was doing stuff for like DJs. I got hired by a DJ crew to do all of their mixtape covers, and there was like 20 people in the crew. So I was doing mixtape covers every week and then posters, and I was also painting shirts. So I was just super, super busy, but in like a creative stage, like early. Like my teachers were like giving me advice, like, you don't even need to be here.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like you're already doing all the work that all those kids want to get.
Yeah. And I was like a rare case, which I didn't graduate. I still have 12 hours to finish, or maybe 11.
It seems so natural for you, like all of this progression. I'm sure there's bumps in there, but it just seems very natural and fluid for you, almost like it was just seamless, and you following your design, your love for design and graphics. It just seemed to kind of come in a way.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I mentioned this in an interview the other day, but a lot of these interviews, they ask like what led you to this point, or like how did you get here, like what decision did you make that put you like in this position or whatever. And I can never come up with an answer, because it was just natural. Like I didn't like come to like a crossroads and I'm like, all right, you got to pick, do you want to go this way or do you go this way? It was just like the road was just going, and I was just in the car like on autopilot, not even steering.
Yeah, it seems like you're just like, oh, this opportunity is dope. This opportunity is dope. Live in this cool house. Like, let's do it. Like, go competitive, compete. And it's like, from a lot of the creatives and people I have on the show, that's a very similar thread, is that it just sort of happens because you're just following this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a great decision maker to begin with. So if I had been led with like, or if I had been led to a point where I had to make like a life altering decision, like I probably would have like racked my brain for forever. I have to make a lot of decisions, obviously, now with both brands, but
was that premium that you were doing then too?
No, so premium started 2011. So at first it was just my graphic design and then the hand painted shirts. So growing up, like high school to even now, like if I go home, everybody calls me Gully, Gullee. But that was, so my initials are DG, and that was just kind of like, at first it was D Gully, and then it was just Gully. And so when I first started, I was just painting under my name, like Gully Originals. That was,
how'd you get that name, by the way?
just like some neighborhood, like some neighborhood nicknames. But it started actually with like a basketball tournament. It just stuck. Like everybody just called me that.
It seems like one of those moments where you like shoot a vicious three and you're just like, Gully, and someone's like, oh.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think it was like, so we have the Dust Bowl, and like the Dust Bowl is a basketball tournament. Like there's like a street basketball tournament, and then everybody's like, you get with your squad and you get jerseys and you put your names on the back, and it's like a big deal, and it's like down Kentucky, like Indiana area. But that's where that was like my Dust Bowl jersey name, and then it just stuck. But
was there a big creative scene in Kentucky? Because when I think of Kentucky, I think of like football and sports. I never think of some nurturing creative environment.
I mean, there wasn't. There still probably isn't. I mean, I go back probably like once every 2 years or so. It's not for any particular reason other than I'm just, it's always in my mind, like I should go home and like visit family. A lot of my family, like my mom, she'll come to like they were just in LA with me. My mom and my brother. And then I'll see them. And so it's kind of like, I mean, my family's getting smaller now. A lot of the older people are passing.
Damn.
And in Madisonville, it's really just like my mom, my brother, uh, like three aunts, like two uncles. So there's not like a whole lot of family there for me. And then a lot of my friends, there's a lot of them are still there. Most people don't get out of Madisonville, but I just haven't really gotten to a point to where I'm like comfortable enough to take like a week off to go home and like, cause there's just,
Like you're still in that grind, like the serious
yeah, like
grind hustle mode.
I have to, and I'm a really like to myself type of worker. Like it's hard for me to get out of my like element and like work in a different space. Like I'm not really good at like going and working at from like a coffee shop or like I just have to have my like I'm very very particular. I want everything where I want it to be and so I'm not comfortable like going and having to like cuz I can't shut the business off while I go. And since
It's 24/7, it's like
and I
life is
handle like
business.
a lot of the big roles of the companies. So it's just a lot depends on me. And for me to go, it's kind of like
Are these companies you run, they seem like big. Are there multiple people operating at different parts, or is it still you just sort of making all these executive decisions?
so with Diet, it's kind of me and so my partner John Geiger, we started Diet, and then we brought Tyler and Scooty. So I guess to rewind further back,
Yeah.
Tyler and I started Premium in 2011,
And
and
his name is Tyler Hudley, right?
Hundley, yeah. So he's in Kentucky still. We didn't. I'm looking at these shoes up here. So basically, footwear is what kind of, I guess, brought me and Tyler together to begin with. But through social media, we didn't know each other at all. But
Like SB culture.
SBs, like, I mean, this was like 2011, 2010, 11. And like, I mean, LeBron's, like Jordan's, like everything that's when I was like really heavy into footwear. But um I had another company and Tyler purchased some stuff from me for his girlfriend and we just kind of stayed in touch. We were in like a couple Facebook groups and Twitter like stuff or whatever about really just about footwear. And then one day I don't know if he DM'd me or emailed me or texted me, I don't know, but he was like, "Hey, I want to make gemstone bracelets. I know that because my other company was doing jewelry as well." He was like, "Do you
Gemstone
have,
bracelets.
yeah, just like beaded bracelets?"
Like oh crap, I took them off.
Yeah,
Like
but
what?
just
Like
like,
this?
yep, just like that, like different types, like tiger eye and onyx and like all of that stuff.
Probably put it back on now, I guess.
And so he was like, "Do you have a source for any of like a vendor for beads and stuff?" And I'm like, "I do," but I'm always like really secretive about my suppliers and everything. And so I'm like, "Why don't we just put in some money together and just see what we can come up with?" And so we put in like $300 between the few of us. It was me, Tyler, and another kid who like quickly like got bought out. Like we didn't even have paperwork and he was already bought out just because we realized that he didn't have what we needed. Like he didn't have any like
This is also an interesting time because e-commerce and all that stuff wasn't insane at that point.
no,
There was no Shopify, there was no WooCommerce, there was no any
yeah,
of that
this was
stuff.
before Shopify. This was like Big Cartel was like
Yeah.
the first Shopify.
Like shit was mysterious back
Yeah.
then. Like you're like, how do I ship?
Yeah.
How do I track? Like
Exactly. So we didn't, but we also didn't like, we weren't even thinking that big. We were
really?
thinking like, we'll sell bracelets on like Facebook and Twitter and just see what happens. And like very quickly into it, like it just kind of like, I won't say it blew up, but for us, for two kids from Kentucky, like bracelet orders were coming in like left and right.
Whoa. What was it about these bracelets?
It's like in hindsight, looking back, I think that it was the way we presented the brand. Even though the bracelets may have been like, at first they were probably like $15. Excuse me. And then they may have gotten up. I know they got up to like 20, 30.
Dang. Yeah, raising prices.
But we like, the brand is premium. So we had to like, whether it cost you $100 or whether it cost you 30, it was going to look like it cost $100.
Kind of like the ethos was in the brand name.
Yep. But even in the brand name, we weren't even thinking like, let's come up with a brand name that like, I guess personifies like high quality. We were just thinking like, let's come up with a cool brand name, and not like even to give Tyler the credit. I mean, which looking back, we wouldn't have called it premium, like, but the names that I was throwing out were way more like.
Is that because it's Supreme, by the way? You wouldn't have called it premium?
No, it was more. I wouldn't call it premium just because premium isn't really like. It became a brand name because of us, but it's more of just like an adjective it's premium is not really a brand name that everybody wants to just wear. Like it could have become that based on like Supreme having a name similar to that. But for like in hindsight, for the brand that we grew to be, premium was just kind of like, I don't know, just not like the brand name that we wanted to tie into clothing. So like in hindsight, if we had known that we were going to get into clothing, we would have come up with a name that was more like, I guess that embodied like the full experience.
Okay.
Premium worked well for jewelry, but once we got into clothing, we were just like, it's cool. It's just like not. We just wish that we had come up with a different name for the clothing side. You didn't have that like aesthetic
or something that would define it.
And that's the same thing. So like I was saying about the jewelry, whether it was $10 or $30, it looked like it was worth $100. It was the same thing with the clothing. And we just felt like the clothing that we were putting out was just premium, just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of brought the vibe down of our aesthetic, we felt, which is still like
holding you back or something.
Premium is still like around, and we're still like, I mean, we're about to release some new stuff in a couple weeks, and we have like a big year planned. It's just like I said, in hindsight, everybody has those decisions that they may have, if they had known now or if they knew then what they know now, like they would have changed things. But
that's an interesting sort of like idea that I was just talking about with someone in the car the other day. I was talking to this graphic designer, and I was like, hey, can you check out my podcast brand or my Bruce Allen fonts? I just want to know what you think. And we were talking about how, like what it communicates and all these things. And my idea was that I think brand's important, but at the end of the day, I think the execution, what you put out will trump it no matter what. Like you could have the smoothest sounding name, but if you don't do anything, it's not a brand. But if Nike was called, Kibbles and Bits, it would probably still be pretty big.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it would, and that's the reason why like we didn't change the name of Premium. Like obviously, we could have changed it into something different or launched another like subsidiary under Premium for just the clothing, or another subsidiary for just like high-end clothing, but we kept it all under the same roof. But it's because of like, to get back to your question about like what was so special about the jewelry, and it's the same question for what was special about the clothing. It's just like the level that we executed on was just at a very high level, and you were paying a very affordable price for that high level. And we came in at a time that was perfect for both genres. So like with the jewelry, we were launching at a time where there wasn't a lot of competition for that. I mean, there were brands that were doing similar things, but
there's not like 30 drop shippers right now.
Yeah, but you would have like David Yerman, who's making like $200, $300 versions of what we're making, and we would make it for like $40. Which, granted, his are very nice. Not to take anything away from him, but
your competitor was just ridiculously different level of
Right. When also
price
he has retailers, he has his own stores, he has a huge staff that he has to pay. So his overhead is much higher than Tyler and mine, who's it's just us two.
Two
Like,
kids from Kentucky.
yeah, I'm making stuff out of my spare bedroom. He's making stuff out of his basement. We don't have a huge overhead, so we don't have to like factor that into our cost to where it drives the price up. But at the same time, you're still getting like an amazing quality item. And that was the same with the clothing. We didn't so with premium there were three of us. It was Tyler and I for like the first 3 years. And then we brought Scooty in, who's from DC. And that's kind of my like I guess my association to DC is by way of Scooty.
And what was his role in the business?
So at first Scooty came in. At first he wasn't even coming in. Scooty was just a guy that I met that became a friend. And then through like first couple like months of hanging out with him, I realized how many people he knew. And I mentioned this other day, he kind of like provided like a level of like stability for like, I guess kind of like goals. Like Scooty was one of the first people to like mention setting goals to me, but not only like personally, but him and his wife setting like goals for them, whether it was like her career, his career, them together as a couple, like whatever. So he was one of the first people to mention goals to me. And he was just a guy that like I looked at as like he's got his head on straight. He's like he's thinking with a different mindset than what I grew up being around.
And I don't want to say father figure, but almost like mentor in a way.
Yeah, I mean Scooty's nickname is Uncle Scooty. Like he's everybody's uncle in the area. So like he was like, I mean he's a handful of years older than all of us, but he just kind of had like a little bit more of like wisdom than I grew up like around. I didn't have like a lot of like positive influences growing up around me. Like it was either like, I mean, I grew up playing basketball, so it was basketball or it was the streets. And I was like one of the few that like stayed with basketball, but kind of like teeter-tottered between the streets a little bit. But then 99% of my friends were all like on the street side. So I didn't grow up with mentors that were like, yo, like write your goals down, like say them out loud,
Super
like kind of like
positive,
positive affirmation type thing.
And do you mind me asking, was your mom like single mom kind of situation?
Yeah. So my dad so I come from Madisonville, Kentucky, which is the southwestern tip of Kentucky. And so in between that tip, you have Indiana to like the northwest, and then you have Tennessee right below you. So I have Nashville right here, and then I have Evansville, and then even further up is like Indianapolis and stuff like that. So my dad he kind of bounced back and forth between Madisonville and Indiana. And then at one point he had moved to Hawaii. And I don't know, like
Military?
No, not military. Just to be honest, I don't know why he moved to Hawaii. I don't know a ton about his story. Like, I mean, we're not like in a bad place where we can't call each other and talk or whatever. We don't talk often, but we're not like feuding, or I'm not like I hate my dad or anything like that. But we don't communicate a whole lot, and I don't know much about his story, and he doesn't know too much about mine. But for whatever reason, he had kind of wound up in Hawaii, and
It's a crazy place to wind up.
And like I said, I don't know the timeline. And I believe he was probably in Indiana, met a woman, and maybe she was from Hawaii, and then they moved to Hawaii, or he moved to Hawaii, met her, and then moved her to Indiana. I just know that At one point he was in Indiana, and at one point he was in Hawaii, and I don't remember which came first.
Does he know like about what you're doing right now and like how much you've accomplished thus far?
Yeah, he I mean, we follow each other on Instagram and we're friends on Facebook, and I mean, like
that still sounds kind of weird for me to hear.
It's definitely weird, but it's good because I won't say it's good. It's probably not good.
That's just a relationship though.
It is. And I won't say that he doesn't try. Like he'll call me and I might be like doing a podcast, or I might be on a plane or in a meeting or something like that, and then get busy and may not call him back for a few days. And then when I call back, he may be at work. I think he works at a hospital now too. And he's like, his side of the family is in the funeral home business. So like so his side of the family owns like a handful of funeral homes across like Indiana, Kentucky, who knows like where else. But so he's like part-time mortician, I guess. And then he also works at the hospital. I'm not exactly sure what he does.
That's a crazy life to think about. And I don't want to dwell on this subject for that long. Yeah. But like dealing with dead people and then dealing with people who are dying, like that's got to have some impact on your psyche, man. Like that's heavy stuff.
And where he's at, like he's in Evansville, Indiana, which is 30 minutes from where I grew up. So that was like Madisonville is a super small town. Like we don't have, like if you're doing back to school shopping, you're not shopping in Madisonville. You're going to Evansville or Nashville. And Evansville it's not that, I mean, it's in Indiana, but like people from Indianapolis live there, people from Chicago, people from all over. Like that's like if you're coming down from like one of the northern states and you're wanting to live in Indiana, you're probably going to live in Evansville because cost of living is low, but it's like the closest like to a metropolitan area in that
right outside
that area.
The center, I guess.
And so you're getting like a lot of like, I mean, you're getting a lot of people that come there for good jobs, but then you're getting a lot of people that come there on like some street stuff. Like it's a lot of gangs and it's a lot of violence.
You could commute to that major city, go back there.
Yeah. And so being in the funeral home business, like unfortunately,
business was good.
Business is like when I talk to him, he's like, you know, they got this and that going on with the cartel, and it's a new like killing every couple of days. And he doesn't say it in like a positive way, but it's a weird thing when it's like your business succeeds at the expense of other people dying. And I won't even necessarily say at the expense, because that makes it
pretty
sound,
heavy way to look at it.
But that makes it sound like his career like blossoms and makes people die. It's really like people die and then his career like kind of
but the more blossoms. They die, the more money he makes.
Of course.
And just to, I guess, to tie this timeline back in. So now I guess that makes a lot of sense if Uncle Scooty comes in and he's that first dude who's like, yo, like you're talented as fuck. Like let's put some goals on that. Let's give like more direction, I guess.
Yeah. So I would say that like at first Scooty and me, when we first got together, we weren't necessarily thinking like business wise though. It was more so like the first time I met him, we met up in Georgetown at Thunder Bar or whatever, Thunder Burger Bar or something. And he pulls up with it. He's got like an iPad. He's got his 2 phones.
Whoa.
And he was in the school system at the time. He was like a dean of students for like some school in DC. And so like I said, I'm probably like, I'm 34 now, and we brought him in 2013. So I met Scooty 2013. So that's like 5-6 years ago. So I was like 28, 29. And he's probably like 34 at the time or something like that. So I'm like, I'm the younger brother. He's coming in. He's got all these like gadgets. He's talking about goals.
He's hustling.
He's married. He's got a wife. Soon after having a kid, like they've owned their own house. Like he's like yeah, he's like goals of like, I never been around anybody that like, my mom never even owned a house until like recently. So,
It was like that first person you saw, you're like, whoa, you're successful, you're driven, like you have all these things that seem nice, like you
yeah,
have everything, and then here you are in my life. If that was me, I would have been like, is this real? Like,
right.
what do you want with me? Like,
Well, and that's kind of, so when I first got to the area, and so that's how, so Scooty and I met through social media. I was, Premium's Instagram was my personal Instagram up until like 2 years ago.
oh yeah, you ain't got no time for a personal, huh?
Right. And so, but I would post personal stuff on there because people, that's what, like, people knew that as me. Like, people knew Premium Co's Instagram as me. And so, like, if I wanted to post a picture of my food or my dog or my outfit or whatever, like, I would post it on that page. But Broccoli City, I think it was the first year of Broccoli City Fest. My Phil Ade is one of my friends, and him and DJ Money were performing. And this is when Premium was just jewelry. And I was giving Phil some jewelry to wear to the show.
So that's
And
why like you were even in DC, I guess.
yeah, so at that time I was still living in Hampton, but I came to DC for Broccoli City.
Okay.
Well, my girlfriend's family they're not from DC, but they're from Northern Virginia. And so we would come up and stay with them whenever we wanted to. But I posted the Broccoli City Fest flyer, and Scooty happened to be hosting that festival. And so he was following me at the time. And when I posted it, he was like, yo, like, I'm hosting this joint, like, let's link up. And I think at first I didn't really like pay it too much attention, because when I first got to the area, like every DJ and athlete and everybody was hitting me like, yo, like, let's link. I'm the man in the city. Like, I can do X, Y, and Z. And I just was like,
That's pretty epic though. Like your brand was that big that you were getting all these DMs of people trying to link. Like that's kind of cool, but at the same time, I can see how you're kind of confused. Or
well, it wasn't really even confused. I'm
Okay.
just like, I mean, I'm from a small city, but like, I'm not an idiot. So like, I have like
I get what
a
you're
very
saying.
high like street IQ. So I can, if I feel like something is like fishy, I can like sniff it out. But
Like they were just trying to use you because of what you had, I guess.
yeah, I mean, and I'm not, you'll probably, well, by the end of this like podcast, you'll see that uh my journey has been like you said, natural. Like it's all organic. Like if I run into you and we have like a conversation and there's like some type of mutual like benefit to both sides in the relationship, then we can definitely like kind of nurture that relationship. But if it's just one sided and you can only like help yourself, or even if you can only help me and I can't help you, that's not my type of party. So I just felt like a lot of the people that were hitting me, it was more like one sided. But with Scooty, for some reason, I like, when he hit me, it was like, I'm hosting this. For whatever reason, I'm like, I mean, this sounds like a good, like, I didn't know about the goals or about what his career was or anything, but I'm like, for some reason, this guy seems like somebody that I should link with. And so we linked. And then that's when it kind of like naturally progressed. And we went to eat that one time. And then like a week or so later, we linked up again. And it's funny because I can like remember like all of the restaurants that we linked up at. But that, I think like the second or third time we linked up, I was like, I'm like, you should handle sales for us. Like, you know, everybody.
You
like,
told him this.
Yeah, I told Scooty this. And he wasn't even thinking like I could be a part of this brand. He was a fan of the brand, but he wasn't even thinking like I could be a part of this. And I'm like, you should handle sales. You know, everybody. Like, I'm not like the go up and sell the product type of guy. Like, I'll make the product and it'll sell itself. But if somebody else can be the sales force of that as well, then perfect. Cause I'm like the quiet. Well, no, I wouldn't even say quiet, but I'm just like, I just like to stay to myself a lot of the times.
Reserved.
Yeah. But Scooty will be on the elevator and be like waiting to spark a conversation with the person beside him, or in the Uber and like waiting to talk to the driver. But and I noticed that early, like, this is I won't say it's a weakness of premiums, but you could be an asset really from like your network of relationships and just the fact that you're just a communicator in general. And so
that's a very harmonious relationship. Like going back to what you said, it's like you want someone who can add to this relationship, add to the friendship.
Right.
You've got all the creativity in the world, the brand, and here's Scooty, and he's like, oh man, this guy's perfect. Like he could definitely take my thing or this thing to the next level.
Right. And so it kind of it started with him, like he was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so it started, but that was like the one day that he was our sales guy, was the day that I said you should handle sales. After that, it was like once we got on the road together, it wasn't necessarily that he was selling the brand from like a sales rep standpoint. He was selling the brand in the sense of like him knowing people and putting new people onto the brand. But so probably like I don't know, like a couple weeks after we first met, we were going to the trade shows in Vegas together, me and Scooty. Tyler, so at first, me and Tyler we attended the trade shows, but then we kind of replaced Tyler at the trade shows with Scooty because we're a young brand. We can't really afford for 3 people to go to the shows.
And a trade show is where you go and you essentially try to sell your products or your brand's products to like a commercial side or to
you go and you meet with buyers for stores or for retailers or companies or whatever. But at first, we were kind of just going just to kind of scope the scene. So when Tyler and I first went, which was a funny story, that was the first time Tyler and I met, was going to the trade show together. We had this company for a year before we had even met.
What?
I skipped like the timeline of the stories of the brands, but Tyler and I started in 2011. He was in Kentucky. That's when I moved to Virginia, and we were running this company out of our bedrooms. His bedroom happened to be in Kentucky. Mine was in Virginia, but it worked for us, and it's still like to this day, like none of us are really in the same city. Like even when I was living here full time, Scooty was in DC. I'm in Sterling. That's an hour away. So granted, there were a lot. It was easier for me to link with Scooty than Tyler, who's 10 hours away. But up until recently, like John and I both moved to LA, but we travel so much that even if I'm there for 3 weeks, John may only be there for 1 week out of those 3 weeks just because different things going on. But
that's something I noticed just as I've been a part in learning about this ecosystem of this kind of like brotherhood you have. It's like you, Scooty, John, Tyler.
Right.
And Tyler, I kind of found out last, but I really identified as like you, Scooty, and John. And I was just like, these guys all operate at different, like different points, like New York, DC, and I guess you're LA or Virginia now. Yeah. But y'all come together still to make this like epic shit happen.
Well, it's funny that you say that in those particular words, because we have a new project coming up for this year that kind of highlights just that. Like it's not necessarily highlighting a product or an event. It's highlighting the fact that I'm from Kentucky, Tyler's from Kentucky, John's from Pittsburgh, Scooty's from DC. I lived in the DC area. John moved to Miami, then John and I both moved to LA, but through all of these like moving parts, like we've had these brands that have kind of been able to like stand the test of time by not even being in the same office space.
Yeah.
And so that project is supposed to be something that reveals itself like late 2019.
Is that a whole new brand?
No, it's not a brand. It's basically just kind of like I don't know if it's supposed to be like a docuseries or if it'll be like a short documentary, but it's supposed to kind of like showcase the fact that, like, for instance, what's the day? Today's like the 18th, 19th. So the 11th. Yeah, the 11th, last Monday, we had an event in New York for Fashion Week.
I saw that was cool.
And leading up to that, I was in LA. Well, John and I were both in LA working on that. John had just come back from Mexico. So John's landing in LA from Mexico. I'm landing in LA from DC. And then we're working on the collection for the event in New York. Tyler's in Kentucky, Scooty's in DC. And then Friday, I fly from LA to DC, and then I take the train from DC to New York with my girlfriend. Scooty's driving from DC to New York, and he meets me up there. Tyler flies from Kentucky to New York, meets me there Saturday. John flies from LA to New York Sunday and meets us there. And we kind of somebody referred to it as like
the Avengers coming together.
Yeah, somebody referred to it as like a I can't even think.
That's all right. So John,
what's the robots that or the cars that turn into robots or whatever?
Well, I would rather say Power Rangers because that was my childhood.
Same thing,
but Transformers.
So Transformers, but Power Rangers too, where they link up and perform. That's probably a better analogy, actually.
Megazord.
But so that's kind of what this is supposed to highlight, is the fact that like I'm in LA the majority of the time working on the clothing side of it, alongside John who helps with that, and then we also like both assist in like the creative just in general of diet.
How did it go from you just like designing t-shirts and beads and stuff like that to actually designing pieces? Because that's something that I feel like would be a natural progression for anyone who's just making graphics on shirts or whatever you're putting them on, that you kind of get to this point where you're like, I need to design. Like I need more uniqueness. I need my own voice or something.
Well, that's essentially what happened. I was, like I told you, I was doing clothing before Premium with the hand-painted shirts. And so then we start, even with graphic design, I was doing clothing too. I would design something and then I would take it to either to the printer or to like a vinyl shop, and they would cut the vinyl and do like the heat transfer type stuff. And so I was doing shirts for the same people that I was doing like mixtape covers and stuff for. I would end up doing like shirts for their mixtape or for the mixtape release party or whatever. And then once we started Premium, that kind of took over for the first like couple years. And we did do a couple like, I guess like elementary like clothing designs for Premium. Like when you first start a brand, you obviously put the logo on this and that or whatever. But then like 2013, for some reason I just had like this itch to get back into fashion, but from a different standpoint than what I first started. When I first started, it was strictly just graphics, obviously, like with the hand painted stuff. But when I wanted to get back into it, I was wanting to get back into it from like a cut and sew standpoint. But funny enough, like it still was the first product that we did clothing wise for Premium, like from a cut and sew side, was still a graphic t-shirt, but it was basically, this is how it happened. I'm big on like calculated risks. And so with social media, one way that you can excel in that is putting up like a well done Photoshop or mock-up of a product and get a response from it. And so I did that with this shirt, and the response was crazy. And so we knew that we had to, I mean, it's funny looking back because it got like 400 likes, but at the time, like for us, that was like a crazy response.
Like, whoa.
And so we're like, yo, like there's clearly a market for this product.
And it wasn't just a graphic on a shirt. It's like you designed that shirt.
Yeah, so we designed like the fit and everything. And then I was making it in New York with a guy that I was put in touch with who handled Kith, Ronnie Feig's clothing line. He was like, so when Ronnie was making everything in New York, this guy was supposedly making his stuff. And then Ronnie moved stuff to like somewhere overseas. I don't know exactly where, but so I was taking the train up and working on this shirt for like however many months. We got it right. We put it out, and because of the cost, we had to sell it at like $120 or $100 or something like that.
How hard is it to get a shirt right? Because to me, in my ignorance, it seems so simple.
Yeah.
But like, what are these like details that you're like, oh, it's not right. Like, it's not perfect. Like,
I mean, so with clothing in general, every measurement is like super detrimental to the fit. Like you could take the shoulders and add too much length or take too much length out, and it'll completely like destroy the fit of the shirt. But like if the shoulders are too narrow, you're barely even going to be able to put the shirt on.
Yeah.
But if the shoulders are too wide, it may not stand right on the top of your shoulder, or it may lay too far down on your arm. It's like a bunch of different things. And then not to mention like the chest and the length and the armhole and like every other measurement.
Wash and all that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, this is a random story that pops into my mind, but this is the first time in my life I appreciated like a shirt design. And I was in college, and actually you're kind of familiar with ODU, so you might get this. Do you remember Ghent? Are you familiar with that neighborhood at all? It was like the only hipster cool area.
I remember.
in ODU.
I don't remember like where it is, but I remember like hearing about like the Ghent area or whatever.
So in Ghent, I would always longboard there to go to the coffee shops because I just thought ODU sucked. I don't know why I was there, but anyways, there was this boutique there, and it was this guy. He sold all these really cool labels and stuff that I had no idea about, but I loved the guy and I loved chatting with him. But I got to a point where I felt so guilty that I'd always go in and talk to him and not buy anything. I was like, all right. I was like, screw it today. I'm going to buy something on clearance, you know? And so I go in, and I found this shirt. It was like a cream colored white shirt, but on the shirt was just like a picture of a shirt.
Right.
And I was like, hey, I want this shirt. And he tells me like this crazy story about the shirt. He's like, it's enzyme washed. He was like, the guy who printed on this shirt, he did like this crazy process and all this stuff. And I was like, all right. I didn't put too much thought into it. But that became and I paid like $30, which at that point was a lot for a shirt for me.
Of course.
And that was on sale. And I was like, but that shirt, when I wore it, I felt so good. Like,
was it a blank shirt, or had like a graphic on it?
I think it had like just like it was like a t-shirt graphic. It was like a t-shirt with a t-shirt graphic.
Okay.
It was kind of ironic.
Right.
But like it just fit so good. The material was good, and it's like it never like the washes, I swear, made it look better.
Yeah.
And it was after that moment I was like, dang, I was like, quality and like the attention to it is just so important, and I respect the hell out of that now.
Yeah.
Like I mean, see it now.
That's a big thing with us is the wash. Obviously the fit has to come first, but the wash and the fit go hand in hand, because fabric shrinks when you wash it. So you either have to pre-shrink the fabric before you start, or you have to build in shrinkage into the pattern. So the pattern knows how much the garment is going to shrink, so that whenever you do wash it, and when I say wash, I'm talking about before like the customer gets it. So there's like, you mentioned enzyme, there's tons of washes, enzyme, silicone, mineral, acid, like tons of different dyes, like direct dye, reactive, like so many different types of things. But you have to know how much your garment is going to shrink before you go into production, or else you're gonna screw yourself up. And we did that a couple of times. Like we bought some fabric from Japan, and we were told that it was pre-shrunk, and we cut and sewed the hoodies, and then sent them to laundry to be dyed. And whenever they came out of dye, they shrunk like a foot vertically. They didn't shrink widthwise. They only shrunk vertically. So
how does it only shrink vertically?
It's just different. The way fabric is knitted differently.
Okay.
There's so many different type of like knitting and weaving machines that like control how it, and then like there's like there's like 3-way stretch, 4-way stretch, like all of these different ways that fabric can stretch and so on. But that we lost like, that was supposed to be a garment that was a men's garment. It shrunk so much it had to be a women's garment it was still like a cropped hoodie. But we probably took a good loss on that. But yeah, the wash so the wash and the fit go hand in hand. I'm trying to think. I mean, in like Norfolk, the only two kind of boutiques that I can think of that, I mean, it depends on like what they were carrying, but the only two that I know of off the top of my head were like Cream, which is still there, and then Commonwealth was in Norfolk before they moved to a mall down there in like Chesapeake or something. But yeah, the wash is,
that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about, is how much thought and everything, like fit, cut, wash, design. Like, it's not just shirt and design, and that's where the respect and the understanding of why someone would pay $200 for like a Gucci shirt.
Right. Well, and even then, like, we don't do the best job of educating the customer on what all goes into it, because at the same time, you still want there to be some level of mystique to it, because you don't want every person to know how you're making this garment, because then they could I mean, not everybody can have the luxury to go out and make it, but you don't want to give everybody the recipe to your fried chicken. So I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat chicken, but
Not vegan,
but
Respect.
yeah, like clothing, the fit, the wash, the fabric,
and so
a lot goes into it.
That's where you said John came in.
So John came in as a friend as well.
John Geiger. And all I know about him, and I guess so people can have a little bit of context about him listening, is he designs shoes.
Yeah, so John is a footwear designer. Now like clothing as well. But I actually met John before I met Scooty, but we hadn't met in person yet. But one of the first trade shows that I took Scooty to was the first time that John and I linked up. We linked up at a hotel for a drink. And it was kind of the same thing. Like, we followed each other on Instagram, and he would buy like jewelry from us, because we weren't doing clothing yet. And we just kept like naturally linking up in these cities. Like, I would be in LA, or I would be in Vegas and he would be there, or I would be in Miami. And at the time he was working with a client who lived in Miami. So he would be down there, and we just like naturally started hanging out. And then
makes sense, because you said you originally loved footwear. So when you meet this guy, you're like, yo, you design footwear. You're
well,
like,
so at the time he wasn't really designing footwear yet.
Oh, word.
Yeah, he was really just like a fashion guy, but he was into I'll take that back. He was designing footwear, but not his own. So he was working on some projects with Nike at the time.
Jeez.
He designed he co-designed like 2 shoes for the athlete that he was basically managing at the time. They grew up together, and John, obviously being like a huge like sneakerhead, that was like his moment to like really like get creative. Funny enough though, John went to school for like criminal justice and graduated. And then the day he graduated, I don't know if it's the day, but like shortly after he graduated, this football player calls him up, who's like his childhood friend. And he was like, yo, like these people working for me, they don't get it. Why don't you come to New York and manage my endorsements?
No, that's one of those decisions where you're like, what?
So that's definitely like, he was definitely forced with, like, he had just finished this college, and then now he's going into a career that has nothing to do with it or whatever. But he packed up and moved to New York or New Jersey. I don't know if he was living in New York or New Jersey. I don't remember, but that guy he had like a signature shoe that John helped design, and then alongside like Nike designers, because if you weren't a Nike designer, you couldn't technically say you designed it, but he got like royalties on it.
Oh, nice.
And then
Wow, that's a big look to go from college then to just go from like designing with Nike. Like,
Right.
holy.
and so him and that guy ended up like parting ways as John started to kind of pursue his own like designing. So John started designing. Basically, he would come up with ideas for shoes and kind of apply them to shoes that were coming out. And so the most popular one was the misplaced check Nikes, and that's where he took like these are ideas that he pitched to Nike like early 2010 area. And Nike was like, we would never do this for these reasons, like blah, 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 blah.
That's everything now.
Right.
Like
but
the
now,
Velcro checks, the upside down checks.
and so now, because his was like, I think he put 4 swooshes on top of the Air Force One. And they were like, we would never put more than one, and we would never like misplaced it and all of these things. And so John was like, all right, well, he didn't do anything with it for a while, but then finally he was like, all right, well, I'm going to do it, and did it. And it went crazy. And that really like,
oh, nice.
that really catapulted him into like into the footwear. I won't say in the footwear industry, because people that were in the industry still looked at it as just customs. But then his now business partner, and at the time, like one of his best friends, like, why don't you just create your own like footwear line? And then they created it and launched John Geiger Co. like February 2017, which is when Diet technically launched as well. So
2017.
Yeah, we launched. We previewed our collection in Vegas we weren't at the trade show because the brands that we were targeting don't really buy at the trade show, but the buyers that we were targeting go to the trade show just because it's kind of like an industry, like at the time it's like an industry hangout spot. So
you just go to meet people.
You would go to meet people, network, etc. And so we got like a private suite, displayed the brand, and invited like a lot of our friends in the industry to come. And they came and they all loved it. And we were getting.
And this was the Diet brand, or this was the Premium Co brand?
So funny enough, both. So Premium exhibited at Liberty, which is one of the trade shows. So we were exhibiting to sell to the buyers that do frequent that show. But then upstairs in the suite, Diet was previewing to the buyers that don't really buy at the show. So like the more higher end buyers, we were targeting upstairs, and then Premium was selling to the other buyers downstairs.
So like upstairs, I guess it's more like Commonwealth in these more like urban boutiques.
Downstairs would be Commonwealth and like Commonwealth Major, like all of those type of stores would be downstairs, even down to like DTLR and like all of those stores. But there's a lot that still frequent the floor too, like Barney's Japan, they walk the floor, and like there's a lot of international stores that were really good stores that would come by downstairs.
So who was upstairs?
Upstairs was like where we just where we just popped up last week. So like Patron of the New in New York, Essence, which is a huge online retailer. I think they're in like Canada, but they're obviously global through e-com. Notre in Chicago.
What is it about? Is it like they're not mainstream in a way? Is that what it is? It's like downstairs is like the more corporate commercial, or upstairs is like the scene, or
upstairs was, and it's, I say upstairs in a sense, but because we were upstairs, but it's not really, it's frowned upon by the shows for you to do that, because obviously they want you to exhibit with them, and where you're paying like $8,000 for a booth, like a 10 by 10. But upstairs is like the more high end stores.
Okay.
And that's the lane that Diet was more, I guess, targeting. And we also just didn't want to. We wanted to do things a little bit differently. Like we didn't want, like, down on the floor, like for instance, you have these racks in here from your guys' shop. So like that's kind of how your booth is set up. It's like you have a rack here, 2 racks here, and then a rack here. And this is technically a 10 by 10 like square.
And then you have like your little desk in the
And
middle.
yeah,
or
you have your
something.
desk right in the middle. And so you have collections all around this, and buyers come through and they pick, and they may like do whatever. But through the course of that, people are still like walking through or like walking by your booth or whatever. So it's and then on top of that, like it's 150 booths side by side. So it's by us doing this in this space, it one separated us from like the riffraff, but then two, it guaranteed that you would have our full attention and we would have your full attention, and you could really like experience the product without feeling rushed or without getting distracted or whatever. But so that was February 2017. Premium's downstairs, Diet is upstairs. We leave Vegas, fly to LA, and then launch John's shoe the same weekend. So we kind of had like all of these things. But for the sake of the story, to tie John into the brand, John and I kept linking in these cities, and we just naturally like started like communicating more and more and like talking ideas. And then he collaborated with Premium. We did a pop-up here at Union Market in 2016. The biggest, most expensive thing we've ever done. And it happened to land during the time we got like 36 inches of snow, if you remember that.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we put like so much money into this event.
So you and John collaborated for the first like diet.
Well, so no, this was really just Premium, and this was a Premium Co event. Sorry.
Okay.
So Premium did. We titled it. I don't even remember. I think it was like Premium Co Laundry Service.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we turned. This was in the old. I don't even remember. It was like an old electric company warehouse.
Yeah, Union Market's all warehouse garment district.
Right. And so
services.
it was an old electric company. I can't remember the name of it. And at the time, this space that we were utilizing was empty, but DC United was moving into it like a few weeks after our event. And so we turned that into like a huge laundromat, basically. We had like a lot of industrial size, like washers and dryers from like a laundromat that we rented. We had a DJ booth that was made out of those washer and dryers, stacked up like 10 feet tall.
Dude,
so the DJs like
sounds epic.
Yeah, I mean, if you Google like Premium Co laundry service or whatever, I'm sure you'll find it.
I'm getting like a bad feeling that this doesn't have a happy ending with the snow and everything.
I mean, so technically it does, but it doesn't. Oh, and then like our retail fixture was designed to look like when you go into a laundromat, or I guess like a dry cleaners. I think that was Premium Co laundry and dry cleaners, or dry cleaners and laundry service, something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, the clothing rack was built to look like the conveyor belt like type, or the pulley system that pulls like the clothing around the dry cleaners.
Yeah, when you go in, they
yeah. So we had like clothing displayed like 20 feet up with like the laundry service bags on, like the garment bags on it, and it was like a full like.
This is a whole experience. This is like
full production.
This is
like
the next level pop up right here.
Like $3,000 in lighting, like all of it. Like it was a huge expense. And then we launched opening night. I think was like a Friday, and then Saturday came, and that's when the snow came, and so we shut down like the next 2 days, and then DC United was supposed to move in, I believe, that following week, but luckily, for whatever, I guess through conversation from Union Market and them, they allowed us to give us like another week so that we could.
Yeah, you got screwed.
Yeah, and so We put a ton of money into it. It generated like we were on the news. We were on like I feel like we did like a couple different news channels, and
Wow.
then I was in like different magazines and publications, and so it got like a ton of press.
And that
So
was just off the base of how epic it was.
that, and I mean, we had a good PR team too, but so some of it was like PR that we paid for, and some of it was just like PR because it was like nobody's still to this day nobody's really doing like activations at that scale, and probably because it takes a lot of money to that you're not going to make back. It's like
True.
how big of a splash do you want to make?
It's like brand experience. Like, what do you think of
Exactly.
us?
And even before that, our first pop up was at the W. And this kind of, I thought about this when you said something earlier about when you first felt the garment and you wore it and you're like, wow, this is like, it's worth, even though I got it half off, like, and $30 was still a lot, like, this is worth it. So when we first did our first pop up for premium, it was at the W downtown, and we built, well, No Kings built like 20-foot, like a 20-foot Washington monument that was like, had like neon lights in the bottom of it. And then we had like our clothing rack was designed to look like the Capitol. And then we had a social media side where it was like Lincoln's memorial, and you could sit on Lincoln's chair and like take pictures. So everything that we've done has been like monumental, but
There's no holding punches on it. Yeah.
well, but then also like it was the reason for that was because the same way you explained how you felt when you felt that garment, that's how we wanted people to kind of like compare our clothing to the monument. So like the way Scooty explains it is people that see like DC tourism spots on like the internet, they're like, I mean, it's not a big deal, like whatever, it's just the monument. But then when you get down on 14th and you're looking at the monument, you're like, wow, this is actually a
Yeah.
big deal. And that's how like our clothes are, is like you may see like a $62 shirt or an $80 shirt or whatever, because you can't like feel it and you don't know like what went into it. But then when you do wear it and you wear it for 2 years, and every time you wear it, it still feels like the first time you wore it, then you're like this is monumental. Like this is a monumental garment. And so everything that we've done has just been like over the top, in the sense of like it may not have always been like the best decision financially, but we always put the customer's experience before our
That's
like,
so important, though.
of course, especially nowadays, like so many people, like I said, nobody's really even doing activations, let alone like a full like $100,000 production that like,
Well, I feel like an activation and a pop up are two separate things.
of course,
Like you took a space that I don't know what was in it, but you turned it into a
Nothing.
laundromat. There's nothing in it, and you spent all this money turning it into a laundromat. And then on top of that, you got a PR, which is something that I don't hear much about until like you get to certain levels. But the PR, I feel like is like a pretty crucial move.
yeah, that they made us like, shout out Moki Media. That's the only time we've really like used professional PR that we like paid for. And they really made us like, we didn't want to do the news. Like I said, I'm not that guy. Like Scooty, I explained him as like the guy that loves to do that. But when it comes to that type of stuff, even he was like, I don't even feel comfortable doing this. But
Damn.
Scooty and I did it because the PR team was like, this is like how many people can say and we did it before we launched the event. So actually I take that back. We launched the event, I think like Thursday night, and then Friday morning we were on the news doing it. But then that's when I think the snow came like the next day or something.
What's your what's your opinion on the whole pop up culture? Because I know for me as a photographer, it feels like there's almost no point of me being in a gallery. It's literally about me doing a pop up for a weekend.
Of course.
Kind of like how District Dodger did his for a weekend.
Well, that's the main thing I was gonna bring up is even Pierre, I almost said PR, even Pierre knew that that was like a financial investment that he had to make, that, and he wasn't he didn't sell tickets to it. Granted, he had like some product that he sold there on like the side, but Pierre put his money on the line to enhance the experience, or to give an experience and not expect anything in return. And so I think that, Pierre's like, he's like the little big brother. Like he's younger, much younger than me, but much bigger than me. But he's like, I'm super happy that he took that route, because not only because that's the route we take, but because like the city, not even the city, cities in general need that. Like
100% agree, dude.
Even, I'm in LA and I'm downtown and I'm by like Jason Vass Gallery, and like there's a lot of galleries like right by me, and a lot of them, a lot of people just, they come in with their art or whatever, stick it to the wall, like have like a DJ, and then that's kind of it. Which, not to like, if that's what the experience like is, then that's cool. But our whole thing, and I say our from a sense of like my team is really me, John, Scooty, Tyler, Pierre, CJ, and Brandon.
Okay.
7 people that kind of execute on whatever facet they need to execute on. Pierre and CJ are more on like a visual or like graphic, like motion graphic or video or whatever standpoint. I'm on like obviously design and production. Brandon helps with like design assistance. If I need, like, for instance, I could text him now and be like, hey, I got this idea. Can you just mock this up as like a placeholder? And then we'll finish it like later. That way I don't forget, because as much as I design, I forget triple the amount of designs. And then John and I work on like creative and social media strategy. And then Tyler assists with like production and fulfillment. He fully handles fulfillment, but then assists me with production. And then Scooty's more on like a brand development and like partnership side. So he helps with like bringing in brands to partner with, or help sponsor an activation, or maybe they're looking for help doing something, or whatever the case may be. And that's really like our team. And
yeah, and the interesting thing about that is that you guys and then No Kings Collective are the people that I see in DC City who are doing it, who are putting on these cool events. Like Scooty's in Broccoli City, he's in Rock Creek Social Club, he's in, I think he does Feel Good or something like that too.
Yeah, he's just started hosting Feel Good. I think Feel Good is Spencer Tracy's party, and then Mitch and like Hezzy. They have like a whole squad now. But Scooty's a part of Rock Creek, and then Rock Creek they've been helping Broccoli City since it started. And Scooty's, so Rock Creek is like hosting, Scooty's hosting. Rock Creek also has Girla, which is like kind of like a female empowerment type.
It's like girl.la.
Something like that.
I think I've seen that.
Or it's like, I don't know. Damo and her squad started it, but Scooty's helping do something with that.
Well, where I was going with that is that like you guys know Kings, like you guys are doing the events that like are seemingly making up the culture in DC.
Right.
Like if you took all that shit out, I don't really know what's left. Like I'd be like, whoa, there's nothing fun to look forward to. Like the No Kings parties, because I'm pretty new to all the cool shit in DC.
Right.
But the No Kings parties were the first things that were I was like, whoa, like there's cool shit to do in DC.
Yeah.
The way they present art and the way they put on their events, I was like, this is next level. And I was like, this isn't just a pop-up. Like I said, I guess it's an activation.
Yeah. No Kings, they did, like I said, they did our pop-up build out at the W. They did the build out for the Union Market thing. So we've done like 2 big pop-up. Premium's done 2 big pop-ups for DC. And then obviously we had Diet Starts Monday, the space on 14th and U. and No Kings did one rendition of the floor that we had in there at one point. So we had one layout that was there when we first opened. So I mean, just to touch on that. So Diet starts Monday. The Space. We opened that May 2017. That was supposed to be a 3-month pop up. After the 3 months came, like the place was trashed. Like, like the retail fixtures that the designer used, they were broken within like the first week. The floor that they had painted had like completely like been obliterated. Like basically everything that they did had to be redone. And so then we brought No Kings in to fix that. And even then, like after that first, so we were open in 3 months. The landlord asked us to basically extend until the end of the year. So from like August, September till the end of the year.
End of 2018 or
17.
17?
So that was May 2017 to the end of July. And then I think we opened back up in September.
What was your reaction at that? Like after that 3 month, like this thing that I guess was just supposed to be a pop up of an activation, and they're like, "Yo, can you extend it?" Like, what?
I mean, it's still, I still don't like I said before I don't know if this was before we first started recording or if this was after, but I don't take a second to like not even dwell, but just reflect. So I really haven't even thought about it because it was just like boom, 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 boom. And then we closed, and I haven't really even thought about like how I felt or whatever, but there were so many ups and downs, and it was super exciting to like have a space that that was ours. Like we could do whatever we wanted. I could put whatever clothing I wanted in there. We could come up with like whatever menu we wanted, whatever food, hire whatever DJs. Obviously in hindsight, we would do some things a little bit differently.
Sure.
But it was hard to close it, like, but we knew that it was either, it's kind of like what I said earlier about, it's similar to this, but like focusing on one thing, trying to get it perfect and becoming less productive. But in this sense, it's where we have so many different pots that we're trying to push energy into, and it's causing us to be less productive in all of the pots, opposed to like reducing the number of pots and putting this much energy into this and this much energy into this. And the space was a huge pot because there's design that has to go into clothing for the space, and then production for the space, and then like I'm doing the flyers for the space, so that takes time. And then Scooty's trying to figure out events for the space, and then we're trying to get DJs, and then we're trying to come up with new menus to keep it fun, and then having to get menus designed and printed, and I'm doing the design on that, or I'm having Brandon, like I'm like in the car, like in the Uber, like, yo, I need to print menus. Can you?
Wow, it's pulling from all angles with this spot.
But that's just one pot. Like we still have premium, we still have diet, like outside of the space, we still have John Geiger Co. And so it just came to a point where that's where we did have to make one of those decisions. Like obviously the landlord, they didn't want us to leave, and the city still wishes that we hadn't left.
Just because of the coolness you were providing, or just like what you guys are providing for that area?
As far as like the city, or both?
I guess sort of both. Like,
yeah, I mean, well, the landlord didn't want us to leave because obviously I mean, I won't say all they really care about, but what they care about is that they have a tenant who's paying the bills, and that lot is until us is historically known to like produce failing businesses. Like a lot of the businesses that have been there closed shortly after opening. And the fact that we could even keep it open by only being able to put a portion of our energy into it is
It's impressive.
yeah, impressive in the least. So, but I think the city is just like yearning for, like you said, there's not a lot of cool activations for us type of people. Like there are like random pop-up bars. Like if you're into Game of Thrones, there's like a Game of Thrones pop-up bar every now and then. And there's like new restaurants that open up and like new clubs and stuff like that. But if you're looking for like a chill spot that you can go, well, for one, like our experience was a different experience. I would say the closest thing to it, which we got compared to a lot at first, was Makedo, just in the sense of that it's clothing
I see that.
and food. But ours is just more of like, for one, it's just our clothing. So you're only getting the diet experience. But then there's also like a party. So and Makedo's not, Makedo obviously has like New Year's parties and stuff like
But
that.
it's like a restaurant. It's more of like a formal sit down.
Yeah,
restaurant.
it's more like, I won't say fine dining. It is fine dining, but it's more like, it's more a formal restaurant. Ours is more like fast, casual, like laid back. Like we only had like 10 tables in the space, and then we had like the bleacher style seating. So you would get a tray, you may be eating on bleachers, but then
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
yeah, but then on the wall, we may have the projector playing like Paid in Full or like whatever classic movies, or if there may be like a new game, or not a game, but like NBA Finals or something like that, or Wizards.
What was really interesting to me about the Diet Starts Monday space was I was aware of that before. I was aware of you and everyone, the whole ecosystem, and I was like, just from a business standpoint, I was like, this is cool. The branding's tight, the name is tight. I was like, everything is kind of cool. But then I found out about everything, and I was like, oh shit! Like it's not just a event space or whatever it might look like to you. It's a collective of dudes just completely crushing it. So now like post closed retail shop, like I can definitely see how like on a public standpoint, it kind of seems like an L or something.
Right.
But really it's not that at all. It's like, no, y'all are just doing other things and feel held back. Like,
yeah, I mean, so there was like, I mean, there weren't even really many people who like publicly stated that we closed because it was we failed or anything like that. But obviously there are like a few boos, but boos come from the cheap seats. So
oh yeah, no, I never saw any press about that.
No, yeah, but there was a couple, but obviously they don't know. Like we could have kept it going for years, but we just knew that, like I said, in order for us to grow the brand, and the brand was the first and foremost like important idea. Like the brand was the brand, and then we got an opportunity to launch the brand with this space. And so it wasn't to where we opened the space and then a brand blossomed from it. And so we knew that in order for us to like really scale the business the way we want to scale it and give it the attention that it needs, like we had to fully uproot from every other situation and really like put as much energy into this as possible. And so that was really what it came down to. And like we just did New York for a week, and then we have a month-long pop-up in LA in April.
Yeah, I read that you're kind of just going back to the pop-up framework.
I mean, kind of in a different standpoint. Like obviously putting that much money into like the Union Market one, we learned a lot. And that was like fully funded by us. ASICS did help partner in like a portion of that, but like 1/10 of what it cost. But so that's like a big part of like moving forward, is like a lot of these partnerships that'll help us in whatever kind of like a situational or case by case basis. But like the LA one is for a month. We'll partner with a couple people to kind of kind of make it larger, but that with the LA one, it's more from like a party side. So like we're partnering with a couple people on the opening weekend to kind of enhance that opening weekend experience. And then Chicago in July. We're doing a collaboration with another brand that'll probably be around this sometime around July or August. And then we're working on this one. Like I know the Union Market one was huge for premium. The one we're working on for like Q4 or like Q1 of 2020 will be our biggest production to date.
Dude, these are just like next level moves. Like,
And that's why
these are
like,
all next level moves. Like compared to a lot of the brands that I see running around that even I work with, they're not making moves like this. Like LA, New York, all stuff like they're very stationary.
Well, and that's important to us too. Is like we are like I said, I'm from Madisonville, John's from Pittsburgh, Scooty's from DC, and Tyler's from Louisville, as the world knows it, but Louisville as people in Louisville know it. But as much as like I love the city, like we have to plant seeds globally, and especially like we're Diet Starts Monday International, so we're not Diet Starts Monday DC. And like I said, no offense to DC, we'll still like
you're not even from here, so
yeah, but we'll still activate and do things in DC. But it was just like it was important for us to like make it clear that we're an international brand and not necessarily just like
you're building a global brand.
Yeah, we're not just stamped to just this one area. And so we knew that the moves that we needed to make had to reflect that. And so New York was obviously first because that was just the way the calendar. Well, actually, I take that back.
It was also Fashion Week too, so that's smooth.
New York was first for this year, but we started this plan last summer because we knew last summer that we were closing at the end of 2018. This was a decision that we made like halfway through the year, and the summer is obviously like the most lucrative. Like as far as your P&L goes, like that's when you're really like cashing out is when the weather is super nice. And we made the decision to close when we were at our peak. But it's because we knew what we had on the table for late 2018, 2019, and early 2020. So we're making these plans like 15, 18 months out because I mean, you have to now. Like there's no way you can execute at that level without like proper planning. And so we started with Philadelphia, and we did like a small activation at Lapstone and Hammer, which are friends of ours, but they have like one of the best stores in America.
I see so many similarities between what you're doing with the brand and like what like a music group would do. You're just like you're touring, you're popping up, you're playing or playing, popping up.
Well, and that was a
name.
That was a conversation that we had internally too. Was like, do we promote this as a tour, or do we not? And we didn't really promote it as either. We just kind of promoted each thing individually. But we started in Philly. That was, I believe, September of 2018, and then we went from Philly to Brazil. That was our first international pop-up. And we launched Ascend. Like that's a whole other podcast in itself with Brazil. But
that's crazy.
So, and then we came back from Brazil. We did one in DC with Ubik in Georgetown for Black Friday. And then December, we did Art Basel. We did a dinner and a pop-up. That was December. January, we pretty much took off. Started back with February with Fashion Week in New York. And then the next one is Fred Siegel in LA for April. And Fred Siegel's like when you think like top retailers in the world, like Fred Siegel has to be like top top 10, top 20, like worldwide. I mean, when I think,
Heard that name before.
yeah, when I think retailers, I would probably say top 5, top 10.
You know,
But in West
yeah.
Hollywood on Sunset. What were you saying?
I was gonna say, you know where I heard that name was watching the Hundreds documentary on like Complex or something. They're talking about how they finessed their way to Frank Siegel, and I was like, oh, that's the first time I heard it. I was like, oh, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I remember that story too. Where they like, what was it?
No. The story was that they told them that it was in demand or something like that, and then so they took a couple units.
They told their friends to come buy the stuff. Yeah. No, yeah. Shout out to the Hundreds. They're one of the first like streetwear brand. I may be the first streetwear like item I ever picked up. But yeah, so we're doing something with Fred Siegel for the full month. And then like I said, we have a ton of things like, and we're in conversations every day with like other companies, and it's kind of crazy if you do take a second to like reflect on like just everything in general, from like the fact that we have our own individual followings, and then we have the brand followings, but like every one of us are fully capable of like selling product. So like I can put something on my Instagram and sell it, and to me that's amazing, because especially coming from somebody who didn't have their own Instagram until like a couple of years ago, but the fact that we're building these followings of people that actually like support, in the sense of like, they're like, wait, like I have people DMing me like waiting to buy stuff that I haven't even said if we're going to sell or not. But, but then like, so thinking about that and thinking about the fact that like, we have athletes that like text us and DM us and call us and like, hey, like, can you hold this? Or, hey, like I can't make it to the pop-up in New York. I'll PayPal you for this, this, and this. And then obviously like musicians are the same. And then when you just like pile it all together and then just think about like I came from painting shirts.
Literally what I was thinking.
And then John came from like John, like I worked at a chicken factory, like Tyson's chicken plant. Scooty was homeless at one point. Tyler was like working at a stockroom at Foot Locker, and John was working at like delivering porta potties at one point. So like all of us came from like just like the craziest. Like I said, I didn't have like I could probably count on 3 fingers how many jobs I've had in the course of my 34 years. But the jobs that I've had, they definitely weren't fun. But but the fact that we've kind of come from that, like with no backing, in the sense of like, obviously no backing in funding, no backing from like, we didn't really have like an NBA player at first to like come out wearing our product and be like, yo, go buy this brand. We didn't have artists do that. So we didn't have that cosign. We didn't really have like hype beasts and high snobiety writing about us. So we don't really have any backing in any sense of like a startup. And so the fact that we've even made it this far without even being under the same roof is just kind of like,
dude, that's insane.
Yes, it's kind of like overwhelming to.
It's like this slow burn of just everything sort of coalescing. There was, like I said, there was no influencer moment. There was no high sobriety or hype beast repost. I mean, I'm sure there is now.
I mean, and even now, like I was on the phone before we got here, and like planning out this next event in LA, and that was one of the topics that I touched on, was like we still have to kind of fight to even get those write-ups.
Really?
And so, because we still don't really have like that 100% cosign. Like there's a lot of brands that have friends at those blogs that they can send anything, and to credit those friends, like those friends are usually the reason that our stories have gotten picked up because we send it to them and like, hey, like, can you do us a solid and send this because we need some press for it. So
Have you guys popped in streetwear culture? Like I did see that screenshot where you posted that your Dice Starts Monday sandals were reselling for like $500
yeah,
on StockX, but it
yeah,
seems like that's kind of like the way to pop, I guess, is becoming relevant in streetwear culture, right?
it's yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it is just like hype, and unfortunately,
Mm.
just like a lot of people, a lot of people wait for somebody that they look up to tell them what they should like,
So
which is
sad.
different from how we operate. Like the stuff that I design, even within my team, like everybody that is a part of our team may not even like everything I design, um, but that's because everybody on our team has their own identity and they have their own like kind of like I don't know their own mind where they can make their own decisions on what they think is cool. But a lot of consumers they wait for a Kanye or a Virgil or even like with Virgil, like
Or an Ian Connor or
it took for
Lucas.
it really took for like Kanye to. I mean, I think that obviously like Virgil's one of the I don't know him personally and I don't really know like how much how much is him and how much is his team. And
Mhm.
but for the work that comes out of Virgil's offices are like are top top three out of like all brand like between Off White and Louis Vuitton. The stuff that comes out of his offices are like
the
top of the
amount, the
line.
amount of it too.
Yeah, well, and then also at the same time, like that for somebody to like, we have trouble with our one brand um, putting out this many designs, and so that if he's putting out a catalog of this size for multiple brands, that that there's some help with the designing. But whoever he has on his team, and if he's the one like signing off on it, whoever's putting it together is amazing. But it took for somebody to say like this brand is cool or Virgil is cool because Virgil came from this camp. And
That like Kanye nod.
but at the same time it also takes for Virgil to like make use of his platform because everybody that came from Kanye's camp hasn't done that
Very
to
true.
the level that he's done it.
Is Virgil kind of like a inspiration in that regard for you as far as like where a brand can go?
Yeah, I mean, he's like I don't know, he's probably like, I'm trying to think of like a rare occurrence that I could think of. Um, but Virgil kind of like, he just kind of embodies like a multitude of different like, I guess talents. Not even in the sense of like he's a designer and he's a DJ type thing, but in the sense of like the product that they put out. Because they'll put out something that's like a vintage inspired piece, and that takes like a specific talent to make something look vintage because I that's something that I do. But then he'll also put out something on this side that's super talented. And so like the product range that you get with like Off-White or now Louis Vuitton is so broad because, and like I said, I don't know if it's because he has X amount of designers that all like have these skill sets, or what it is, but he's definitely like an inspiration. And I mean, there's no way you can't look at his story.
He's not just a designer. Like when
Yeah.
I said you're a fashion designer, like even I was like, oh, I don't know. I feel like that doesn't do you justice. It's
I mean,
like,
well, to me, like just creative in general is
yeah,
like enough. Just because I too have like a lot of facets that I kind of excel in, but um, just the fact that like I said, it takes like a cosign is one thing, but there's a lot of people that Kanye co-signed that didn't do anything with their cosign. So I don't take anything away from him because I don't know I don't know what he designs and what he doesn't, but I do know that I say him in the sense of his company, Virgil, like whoever his team is like one of the best out, from the design to the number of like designs that they put out, from the quality, from the like the distribution. Like they're in all. I mean, obviously they have major funding too, but
They're so smart because they'll like leak pieces with micro influencers.
yeah,
Like
of
you'll see
course.
it on like Luca or any of those other guys.
Well, and that's part of the thing that we're starting to kind of focus on a little more is like we have a lot of these relationships and resources, but the way we've operated because of I'll kind of, I guess, credit it to like being spread too thin. We haven't like there's like I mentioned the pots earlier of like pots that you have for
Mm-hmm.
different brands or whatever, but each brand has its own set of pots that you have to put energy into. And it's like it's just like a human, like you have like your nutrients that you need, your protein, like you need your calcium, you need exercise, you need sleep, you need water, like you need all of these things. And a clothing or a brand in general needs those things as well, in the sense of like you need marketing, you need good design, you need
Yeah.
good product and quality, but then you also need people wearing it, and you need influential people wearing it, and you need to tap into those things. And that's something that we haven't really like tapped into efficiently for like various reasons why we didn't, for like lack of planning or whatever, because like we were at one point I was having to design stuff for the store, stuff for the website, stuff for pop-ups. And then by the time I did all that, I had to like turn around and do it all again for like another like 3 weeks of activation. And it was just like, it's hard to do that and think of like, oh, like we gotta get this on some people. We still gotta market the product and the brand and scale it in the sense of like our audience.
Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about because I mean, and we're gonna wrap things up pretty soon here, but like in myself, it's like photographer. Like you said, you have all those pots, sales, leads, did coming up with concepts, planning shoots, all these things. But then I'm like, why am I running a podcast too? It's like, am I crazy? Like, and then podcast, and it's like, oh, it's like I like to work out. Let me throw that in there too.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, I'm leaving here, and I was designing and working on like some production stuff before this. I had a call, and then on the way here, I had another call about the LA thing. And then I'll leave here, go to the gym, and then get home. And since I manufacture in LA, it'll be like 4:00 out there. So I'll still have to do work
you still
for LA. But I mean, with you, like, I mean, and me too, like, content is key. And like I said earlier, like, unfortunately, right now, it's quantity over quality.
It's the name of the game.
And so, like, even if you're putting out a project that's 70% now, like, I mean, you at this point, just to even keep up with the rest of the world, you have to, because there's no way that you can put out 100% great product every single pot that I mentioned.
That's like thinking that a musician is going to create a hit every time they make a song,
right? Or
which is
even like
impossible.
I watched the Whitney Houston documentary, and like Whitney Houston's one of the, if not the greatest like singers of all time. But even at the end of her career, like she was like missing notes and singing poorly, and like, I mean, granted, it was like probably like a lot drugs and not having performed and stuff like that, but that just goes to show that even the greats have like times where they don't perform at the highest level. But and I don't say that in the sense of like it's okay to put out poor quality. There's still like a level of quality that you have to uphold, but don't cause yourself to become less productive because you're trying to make every single thing perfect, because nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And And it may even be to where something is perfect and you look at it long enough to where you see something that you dislike and you make it worse than it was and you spent more time working on it. And so now what you could have put out two pieces of product or content or whatever, you put out one that's worse than it was. You could have put out two of those that were better, but it's I mean, right now it's a numbers game. Um,
No, I agree with you 100%. I think it's just you have like a natural quality level that grows with your consistency. And just to kind of like round this out here, um, I feel like that was kind of it. But I always like to ask the guest like what they would say to someone in their respective fields, because I feel like the people that are designing and have clothing brands and stuff like that, they probably look at you and what you guys do and your whole team does, and they're like, "Holy shit!"
yeah.
You know. And I hope this maybe demystifies it. Not that it was the point, but like they might hear that. But is there anything that you would say to them, like that guy who's just screen printing on shirts and wants to like take it to the next level, or like that graphic designer who's trying to figure out how to make like a clothing line, like
Right. Yeah. I mean, we get we get those DMs and emails and
Good.
we do all of these
Yeah.
events. And so a lot of the people that have these same questions are coming up to us. And that's like a fun part about what we do. And I'm even doing a panel Thursday at a WeWork in DC that's kind of like it'll be like slightly speaking engagement, but then the majority is like kind of like a networking and mentoring type thing. But that's big for us. Like we like to share as much knowledge as we can without like I can't give you the key to success because
no.
what worked for me may not work for you. And what worked for me probably won't work for you. But I mean, I think the biggest piece of advice that I give most people that ask me is because I get asked a bunch of random questions, but for those that ask what's some advice you would give me to if I'm starting out, the biggest thing for me is like find as big of a void in the market as you can, which is rare these days just because there's almost something for every particular part of the market. So you have to find something that kind of differentiates your product from another, whether that's like the content around it or the quality of the product, how you market the product, the design. It's like with one thing with ours is I'm still learning at graphic design. Like I still like, I mean, with as much knowledge and information as there is on like YouTube and the internet, like I'm still like YouTubing new like techniques and stuff for graphic design so that I can, like when I first started, I was like for like the first 5 years of the brand, I did everything in Photoshop. I wasn't even like using Illustrator until like the past couple years. And now, I mean, I'm still not like an Illustrator like wizard, but like the stuff that I can do in Illustrator, some people can't do at all. And so, and that's from like teaching myself. Even though I went to school for it, they stopped letting me take classes in that field because they said I had already taken too many, and if I took any more, they wouldn't apply to my degree. And that's a part of the reason why I stopped going, because they were like, "Why don't you just take like bowling?" And I'm like, "Why am I going to pay X amount of thousands to come take a bowling class?"
So true.
But like continue to learn, figure out how to differentiate yourself. Like I feel like a lot of what, aside from like marketing it the right way and like presenting it in the light that it needs to be in, my graphic designs are a big part of what makes the brand like successful. Because without good design, like you don't really have anything. I will say that people can market poor design and sell a lot of it. Like I see a lot of that. But with us, you get good marketing, great product, and great design. And that's kind of what separates us. I found like a style that's real. Like I could design a shirt for Diet and I could design a shirt for another brand and you can tell that I designed it. And that means that I have like a very particular design, like style or aesthetic, which is a gift and a curse because a lot of people come to me for like freelance. And if I design it, it just looks like a Diet.
That's your voice though.
Yeah. And so, but that's because I sharpen my skill set to where that separates me. Like you can look at something and you can see like that's Davin's work. And so that's probably like the best piece of advice I can give somebody is to like to try to find some type of void. It's rare that you find one, but it's not that hard if you really analyze it. You can look at something and be like, oh well, my brand is similar to this, but this brand isn't doing this. If I did this, maybe that would kind of put me in a different lane or whatever.
So think like that.
Yeah, think like what's missing. I mean, I feel like you probably, if you study business, you'll see that like a lot of great brands or a lot of great companies succeed when they've studied like another company's business plan, found the flaw in it, and then presented that business plan to the market, and then it was successful. Like there was probably somebody who had like a car service thing like Uber, and then they probably didn't market it or not even market. They probably had like a flaw in the system.
There was actually there was Uber before Uber. Uber was just the ones to perfect it.
Exactly. So they found whatever flaw there was, and I may have heard that before. I may not, but I know that if you study for the flaws and figure out how to perfect that, that's one of the keys to success. And obviously, there's a lot of things that come with that, but.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, dude, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm honestly still shocked that it happened before it did because I was going to go to that event on Thursday and pitch you coming on my podcast before that interview with Pierre. Like I had them in mind. I was like, because I saw you and everything. I was like, all right, Davin's going to be there. I'm going to go talk to him, see if he'll come on my podcast.
Of course. I mean, I definitely would have. But then obviously anything Pierre says that I should do, I definitely, he's one of the few that like, that I really like. I mean, 'cause I feel like me and Pierre are really similar.
I can see why you guys vibe.
Yeah, me and Pierre, like we started kind of hanging around each other like 2014. And this was when he was like, I think he had just gotten a camera and like just started to shoot. And like a mutual friend of ours hooked us up and he just started like hanging around. But he very early on, he realized that I'm like, I don't like, if I don't like something, I tell you that I don't like it and I tell you why. And I try to do it as respectfully as I can. But he also knows that like I said, I'm very particular and I for me to be involved in something, it's gotta go like, and I won't say it's gotta go the way I want it to go. 'Cause I'm not a selfish person, but I just have like a set of like, standards that I live by. And so, and Pierre is one of the first people to like really point that out to me. Like, you know what you want and you don't do nothing that you don't do anything that you don't want to do or doesn't abide by your standards. And I think that's the same with Pierre.
Like you're opinionated, but you're nice about how you offer that
yeah,
opinion.
I'm a Sagittarius, so I can be like very honest, and sometimes it's like painfully honest, but then sometimes it's honest to my fault.
You both, man. I literally had some friends sit me down and be like, Bruce, the way you say things is just so blunt.
Yeah.
And I don't think you think about like how it comes across. And
I mean, yeah, and that's the same thing with me. Sometimes I don't, but most of the times I don't say things like in a hurtful manner. But I'm also just not in the the business of wasting anybody's time. And so I try to make it as clear from the beginning, like this is what I think it should be. Like, do you agree? And then I think that like I communicate with so many companies, and a lot of it is a lot of tiptoeing around. And it took me really until like this past like 6 months to really like,
You mean tiptoeing like you're too scared to present your idea
yeah,
on
like
it?
you're like, going into something, what you, most of the time, what you want it to, what you want the end goal to be. So if we both state like what we want it to be from the beginning, we can bypass 3 weeks of us like tiptoeing back and forth to figure out what the deal is. Like, there's a lot of brands that I'm talking to one now, and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And blah, 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 blah. But they already know what they want us to do. So if they would just come, and I came back, and I'm like, look, this is what we want to do. You tell me what you want, because I already know that you came to me knowing what your agenda was. Like,
Yeah.
there's too many strategic meetings before these phone calls happen, before, like, for me to, like, I know this. So, like, don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Tell me what you want. Tell me what the budget is. That's the other thing I hate is like, a lot of people, I was never like, what's the budget? I was never a what's the budget type of guy. Because budgets a lot of the times don't matter to me when it comes to us paying. Not like we'll just pay whatever, but I know if it's worth it or not to pay that.
Yeah, whatever it takes to meet your standards.
Right. And so a lot of people will come to me and like, I'll be like, well, what's your budget? Like, what's a roundabout figure that you're trying to spend? And I'll be like, oh, I don't have a budget, like blah, 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 blah. And so I'll be like, okay, well, this is probably going to cost this, this, and this, and this is going to be our design fee and X, Y, and Z. And I'll be like, oh, that's more than I want to spend. I'm like, so then you knew you had a budget that you wanted to spend. You just didn't come out and say that. And so now we've wasted 2 emails back and forth when you could have told me your budget was this, and I could have told you it wasn't enough. But yeah, I'm at a point where I'm trying to be as,
You don't have time to waste time.
I don't have any time to waste, and I just don't want to beat around the bush. Like, if you, whatever, let's just.
It's like, if you want something from me, let me know exactly what it is so I can tell you what I want, and hopefully like that relationship will make sense together. And if not,
right.
It's like,
if it's not, right. And that's the thing. Like, I'm in another conversation with something where, we kind of agreed to what worked for both sides early on, but through a lot of like, for various reasons, something has like prolonged this thing from happening for like almost like a year.
God.
And since then, like, we're obviously a much bigger company now.
The game's changed now.
And we've like, our audience has grown like to like a global audience. Like, we have proof of concept for selling X, Y, and Z, like all of this stuff. And so now the story has changed, but we were honest, and we said, look, this is what it has to be. If you can or can't do it, like, let us know. But if you can't, then we're fully comfortable like walking away from this situation. And you have to do that.
I think that's like the hard part about the entrepreneurship journey, is that like the honesty aspect, and then also knowing to walk away.
Yeah, there's not a lot of honesty in this entrepreneur side, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, the knowing when to walk away, and when to like kind of, I won't say bite your tongue or like hold your tongue, or bite your tongue, I guess it's the same thing. But because there's like a lot of times where it's like borderline, like we could do this and we could take less amount just for like X, Y, and Z like benefit. But does this really benefit us? And then that sometimes like you saying no really shows you how bad somebody wants to work with you and doesn't. When it comes down to like a money thing, that's when it gets hard. Like, well, this amount is on the table. Do we take this, or do we say no? That's not enough, because I mean, we have four people on our team, and the 4 people on our team that are going to push this project and the brand page. This is over like 700,000 followers between the 5
It's
pages.
a lot of leverage.
Yeah, and so like, is that a value to you? And if it's not, like, it may suck for us to walk away from it, but there's value in that, and the people that follow us for the product that we create. So if that's not a value to you, then we're fully comfortable walking away from the deal. And so that's like a gift and the curse that, well, not a gift and a curse, but good
But you're
side
also
and
like
bad side.
you're also at like a certain point where you have a lot more leverage than I think some brands might have. Like,
Well, and I think too, we have, even outside of like, Diet's been around like almost 2 years. But before that, we have Premium, and most of these relationships come from, most of these people are the same people that we've met when we were pushing Premium. And so these people have been seeing us for the past like 7, 8 years. And so they know that we're not full. So like, aside from the fact that we do have leverage, we've known them for a long time, and we've been in conversations where they've told us like how other projects were going. So for you to come back and be like, "Well, this is all we got," or "This is what the plan is," or like, we know that that's just a facade, and that goes back to the honesty thing. But those are just like some of the, like, for the people listening, if you're trying to get into not only just fashion, but just entrepreneurship in general, like, these are the same games that are played, like, whatever industry, in any industry, like, and it's something that
it's universal.
you have to figure out a value for yourself and your brand and stick to it. And then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but that's just the risk that you have to take. You could be working at CVS like I was for a couple months, or
Never that.
yeah.
Word, man. Well, dude, it was a pleasure talking to you, man.
Thank you.
That was
Are you
cool.
coming Thursday still, or you're not coming now that you got me on the show?
Oh no, I'm still coming.
Okay.
No, I'm not that shallow, man. Like, nah, I'm still gonna come. It looks like a cool event. My friend Devin's a part of it too, and I think I know China the photographer who's a part of it too.
I know of Devin, and then there's another guy. I think this in the music industry. I see the people like tagging us in the stuff. I don't really know too many of them personally, but those are usually like the ones that are the most interesting for me, because I don't necessarily want to just get up there and talk with people that I already know, because I know their stories. I could answer their questions for them, but I've seen Devin like the past few years at different events and stuff, and I'm sure I've seen these other people too. But
I'm going because honestly, there's not many cases I get to go to where there's kind of like meetups on like a good level like that, where like a photography meetup is really nothing but something like at a WeWork with people like you, Devin, and everyone else. It's a little higher scale, and so I know the people that go there are at least somewhat passionate, or if not super passionate, about what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what, because I mean, we get, like, all of us got asked to do this. I've said, yeah. Well, for one, I'm luckily here this week, so I could do it. But I'm kind of the one that's, I think, pushing my story a little bit more than a lot of the others, just because I'm playing catch up, because I started my Instagram so late. Looking back, I would have, that's another piece of advice, like, make sure you have your own, I wouldn't even say make sure you have your own personal Instagram. Make sure your personal Instagram is also like building the brand. Like, right now, like, your personal Instagram is more important than your brand's Instagram.
So your personal should actually be personal.
Your personal should be personal, but it should also be business as well. Like, you should be posting about your brand. Like, for instance, on mine is kind of like a multi-tiered thing. So I'll post product from Diet, product from Premium, but when I do it, it's usually I try to keep it like a hands-on type thing where maybe I'm at the factory and they're sewing it and I'm like filming it being sewn, or
It's almost like a behind the scenes or something
right
to the whole process.
and then like some of it is like me posting like me sketching out a new design or whatever, and then some of it is like a new outfit or whatever. I try to like, there's just so many different kind of like bullet points that I try to hit on mine, but in through doing that, I'm one, showing that I'm creative, two, showing you the product that I create, and three, like creating content around like this whole process. So whether it's sewing or traveling or a fashion show or an event, like whatever the case may be. But the reason why I said that your brand is more important than the brand's page is because your I say your brand because your brand, you are your brand.
Yeah.
So the people that follow me, they're buying the product, whether it's premium, diet. I've designed stuff for Broccoli City, like athletes, like whatever. And if I post that, a percentage of the people buy it because they're fans of my design. And so
they're a fan of you and what you do as opposed to just the Diet Starts Monday feed.
And the Diet Starts Monday thing that's obviously the big part of what I'm posting right now. Cause like I said, now that diet pot is huge and I'm putting the majority of my energy into that. But
you got me reassessing my Instagram.
Yeah. Well, it took somebody to like kind of like confront me on it and tell me like, yo, these are the areas of your Instagram that I want to highlight. This was one of our intern photographers at the time, Tayo, and he approached me and was like, I want to handle content. I want to handle like developing content for you and for Diet. And these are like, he had like this whole like pillar system of like different tiers. And it was really like,
wow,
it really like put things into perspective. And I do a terrible job of content because I'm usually so hands-on that unless I have like a photographer or videographer with me, it's hard to capture. Because I'm not super big on creating content. I'm more into capturing it.
I get exactly what you mean. It's like you're a fan of documenting as opposed to, hey guys, let's do this and let's make a bit like this.
Exactly. And I don't like staging it. And then when I'm here, I spend probably like, I guess like 40% of my time here and probably 60 in LA. Maybe it may be vice versa, but when I'm here, that's why I really try to like do a lot of these podcasts and meetups and stuff while I'm here, because if not, I'm just kind of like sitting in my basement designing or whatever, which isn't terrible. But when I'm doing that, I'm not really getting any content unless I'm creating it. Because I'm not going to have somebody like in my basement filming me like designing on the computer.
That's your space. You kind of said you don't like that.
Yeah, but in LA, I can hire a videographer to follow me for the day and like film me at a meeting or film me at the factory or film me like at the dye house or whatever. And so it's easier for me to capture content there. But here, it's hard. So usually if there's like a big gap in my social media, it's because I'm here, unfortunately. And I don't say here as in being here is unfortunate. I'm saying me being here equals me producing content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even just being on this podcast, this is content that you don't know where this will lead.
Of course.
Some random dude in India might watch us who's designing. He's going to see you, become your fan, buy some stuff from you, do this. All of a sudden, like next thing you know, he's DMing you, asking you questions. Like
somebody from Morocco just emailed me, and he emailed me the craziest email, which he sent it to a couple people that I know. So I had a suspicion that he did this from the beginning, just because it was so long and detailed. But then my name in the beginning was in caps lock. So
it's like one of those meta fields or something.
So I feel like what he did was he copied and pasted this long thing, but then he just went through and like wrote everybody's names in it or whatever, which either way, like it still took some thought to even think of me to do
Put
it.
you in there.
But it was a super long email about how he's like 18 and he lives in Morocco, and he sent me pictures of like this, like, I don't know, it's like this room that he lives in, and I think his bed was like on the floor, like with maybe, I don't even know if there was a mattress, maybe just like blankets, and like
Dude.
he was like telling me this whole story about how he does this, and then like, I don't know, it was super tough to read, but it was super like,
What did he do? I'm just curious.
what did he do?
Did he say?
He didn't like ask for anything or anything. He just basically like spilled his heart and was like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm crying writing this. But the only thing that made it less, I guess, emotional is the fact that like I said, it felt kind of, I
Because he
felt
sent
a
it
little,
to everyone.
well, I didn't know that at first, but it felt like he did. And then when I was on Instagram later that night, a friend of mine who I follow posted a screenshot of the email that he got too. And it was the same exact thing, word for word. And so I'm like, that kind of like,
Stings.
that kind of makes it a little less heartwarming. But I mean, like I said, either way, like it took some thought for him to at least like think of me. But
Yeah, it's just, you just never know where the content goes and the impact it'll have on anyone.
no, for sure. And I have a lot of people that like, I mean, I did a podcast a couple months ago and I spoke on like being biracial and like growing up in a town that's like, it kind of is somewhat racist, but then I'm going home to my family who is white. And so like, I had like a lot of like people who are either parents of biracial kids or biracial kids hitting me and like, man, I never heard anybody like speak on this like that. Like you like hit the nail on the head. And so it's definitely like, that's probably like the most rewarding, like telling your story, but then getting feedback from like somebody that really resonated with it, like on a deeper level than just like, oh, I'm a designer and this and that, but like something bigger than just fashion or design in general. So yeah, hopefully this reaches somebody that gets something that gives them some type of direction that I didn't have. Cause I mean, we didn't have podcasts growing up, and I mean, there may have been podcasts, but not to the level of like it is now.
There weren't that many resources either.
Right.
To anything you wanted to do, it was like you had to really just kind of figure it out. Now it's kind of crazy that you could think about wanting to design and then go watch the interviews with everyone you admire and then get discouraged and never do it.
Yeah.
Cool,
I mean,
man.
that's the thing. A lot of people will tell you like I've seen a lot of interviews where they're like, what piece of advice would you give somebody who wants to get into the fashion industry? And they're like, don't, like, do something different. But
going with the whole Banksy approach.
Yeah.
I used to tell people to do art and that they could, but after Mr. Brainwash, yeah, not so much.
Yeah, he took off with it. But
just to, I don't know why I feel like I have to do it. To summarize that point, I thought that was really good about your brand and then your personal brand.
Right.
It's like the brand, it has to be like this polished thing. And then your personal can kind of be that personal heart to heart that shows what's going into that. And that's so important today because everyone can have a brand, but showing that personal that people can relate to is almost more important than that.
Well, it is.
To a certain extent.
If you look at, I mean, most famous people that have brands, their following is larger than the brand page's following. So, for instance, John is the bulk of our, like, if we have like 750,000 followers between all of us, John is like 90% of it.
Dude.
So John has like, I mean, who knows what he'll have by the time this comes out, but as of right now, he's probably at like 510,000 or so followers on Instagram.
God damn.
But then Diet's Instagram has like, I think like 23,000 followers. And John Geiger Co., I think, has around like 30,000. So between the two brand pages that he is a part of, they equate to 1/10 of his following as a person. And so, and
now that's awesome.
I've never put that into perspective until just now, but that's just kind of like, it kind of shows you like that the person, and I know of people that have gone into investment meetings, like fundraising meetings, that haven't hardly sold any product, but have gotten crazy valuations based off of their social media, like them personally, not their brand, because these VCs, they look at a person who has selling power and who has like 500,000 followers or 1 million followers or whatever.
What's more important
like,
there?
Yeah,
It's like,
they're like, you may not be able to sell like 1,000 pairs right now, but with the right marketing, we could sell 100,000. And I have the money to put that into you to get that marketing.
because it's like people already believe in it. People
Of
already
course.
believe in that person. So whatever he does, they're going to buy into it.
Of course.
The brand that has nothing, it's going to be a lot harder.
Of course. So yeah, I mean, your page is by far more important than your brand page. And then the thing with me, the part of the reason being is you can, like, I built the premium page up to like around like 40,000 followers. And this was before I started my personal page, but that was my personal page. And so I have, under 6,000 now. And so granted, there's still like a lot of people who don't have anything near that. So I'm not mad that I have 6,000 followers, but going from having 40 and building that up from like that was me personally running that, and like me posting about like my outfits and my shoes and my dog and my trips and stuff like that.
It's interesting to think about like that. Like that's what built that up.
Right. And so, and my friend Pete, who's a writer in New York, he told me when I first told him that I was starting this other brand, he was like, I don't think that you should stop posting those personal pictures on the Premium Code page, because a majority of the people really relate to you. But this was at a time where like most designers were still kind of like mysterious. Like you wouldn't see
So
like
true.
like you didn't see like there were like Jerry Lorenzo had his page and stuff like that, but like if you were designing for like Calvin Klein or whoever, you weren't like posting about it on Instagram.
It's mysterious.
Right. But
Photography has that same thing where photographers are like, who are you?
Right.
Like what do you even look like, dude?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with photographers too, is they're posting their work. And most of the people never see who's behind the camera. So if I saw, I can't even think of, like, there's a couple of photographers that I follow that if I saw them in person, I wouldn't even know who they were, which you post you. So I knew exactly who you were, but
that's strategic on my end too.
yeah, which it should be. And you have multi facets to what you're producing. So like for somebody who's doing other things and podcasts and photography and stuff like that, it's important that people put a face to the name. And that's why I said that your brand page is more, your personal page is more important than the brand page.
Well, screw it. Let me just ask it now while we're on it. My approach to it is it's the Bruce Allen, not Bruce Allen photography or anything like that. I do that on purpose because I don't ever want to be pigeonholed. So that way I can do podcasts. That way I can make video content. And that way I'm Bruce Allen, the Bruce Allen who runs a photography business and does all these things.
Right, of course.
But the way I approach the personal is that's what I save my stories and my highlights for.
Mm-hmm.
And then my feed is like my portfolio. And sometimes I'll sneak in some like selfies where I look kind of good and stuff. Yeah. But like besides that, I try to keep that in the stories and the highlights. So are you saying that I should create a whole nother Instagram where I can post that in the feed? Like it's that important?
No, I feel like you should just do that now. I don't feel like you should create a whole new one because then you have to start from scratch.
But the thing is, the way I think about that is I'm so scared of my like portfolio looking unprofessional in a way.
Yeah, well, I think it also just depends on the content that you. If there's a couple ways you can look at it. If you're thinking about like a lot of my friends that they'll have like, what's it called? There's like another. Is it not Finstagram? Finstagram? I've
never heard of it.
I don't know if it's a whole other like. I don't know exactly what it is because I don't have it, but I know of friends who have like either this other like Finstagram thing, and then they have like other pages that's just like their page to post, like if they're out at a club and they want to post something funny or a meme or whatever like that, they have that. If that's something that you're interested in posting, like yeah, like maybe you should have like another like account that's just like for friends and family that you're just posting that type of stuff. But if it's like you like at an event and you take a picture with somebody or whatever, it's like if it's like still like good content for your brand and your brand is in you, I feel like you should post it. But
So do you think that I should be using some of my That's the Angle clips in my feed?
I would. I mean, I think that I feel like
because my fear is that if someone goes to look at my page as to hire me for photography, they're going to see that and kind of be confused.
Well, I think that that's where the line gets blurry too, is because technically Instagram is your portfolio. I don't know. I mean, I might even say like you have a website, right?
Of course.
So I would just say like, this is my page and my portfolio is in the link, and not even make it to where, I mean, obviously you want to reduce the number of clicks that the customer has to click to find out the important info.
Always.
So I get why you want that to be your portfolio, but I do think that you having these other things like the podcast and stuff like that is only going to help grow your brand, which is going to lead to more photography. So I think that the best way, if I were you, I would do.
And that's the strategy too,
right?
What you just said.
What I would do is just cater your content to that page, like based around keeping the same like level of quality of content. But I think that people, like for instance, Pierre's page is like the perfect mix of, and Pierre may have like his page is District Dodger, but
Yeah.
he may have another Instagram that's just photography, but I don't believe he does. But his page is the perfect blend of like who he is as a person and what he's into, as well as like his work. And I don't necessarily even think that Pierre treats his Instagram as like a portfolio. Pierre may just have like districtdodger.com that is his portfolio.
Yeah, that is his portfolio.
But
yeah.
I just feel like another friend of mine, he asked me for advice on his brand the other day, and he has like a really positive message behind his brand, but he's not a designer. And so he struggles with figuring out content to post, but he does these things where he speaks into the camera and he like gives like positive messages and stuff like that. And I was telling him that's you, that's your brand. Like, why don't you embrace that and post more? Like, if you're trying to figure out content, like use that as like I guess like a tool in your toolkit that you can pull out.
I see what you're saying
as content. And like with you, like this is a tool in your toolkit. And if the quality is obviously like you have what is that, a 5D?
60 Mark II.
Excuse me.
Well, no, actually, 5D's a lot nicer. But I
have a 5D. I don't know though.
Your camera's probably nicer. I just got it because it's good for making content like this.
Yeah. So, like the quality is there. Like I feel like people probably relate to it. Like people like us want to tune into content like this.
Dude, I think you're 100% right, because there's so much content that I don't post on my feed. That's like my YouTube videos, like That's the Angle. And this whole time I've been so scared to sort of put them on the Bruce Allen, but it's weird that I keep and now thinking about it with you kind of rationalize it. It's like they buy into everything and the photography. It's like,
right.
They'll probably be able to see that, these are all his photos that he's posting.
Right.
And he also does this and he also does that.
And like I said, you're the same as me in the sense that you have like a level of quality that you stick to. So you're not going to put up something that's of poor quality. So it's not like you're going to have like 8 shiny images and then this one like trashy image that's like making your page look bad. And that's when I first started what I call my personal Instagram now is I was wanting a page to kind of dump some of these other things that I didn't necessarily felt make sense for premium, but through doing that, I realized that the following was more engaged in that type of stuff. Like I've mentioned my dog Louie like 5 times on here, but even as little as like I might be walking him and post like a picture of him in my shoes or whatever, and people were like, oh, like what kind of dog is it? Like it was just like natural conversation, and I think that people just want to. People aren't so like fascinated with the mysteriousness anymore. Like people want to see how you're living, and I posted a picture the other day that was me in Bel Air. Like I went to a couple open houses. I'm not looking for a house. I just went with a friend who's like, every Sunday we go to open houses and just like get inspired. And so I went. I posted a picture like manifesting 2020 purchases or something like that. Nice. And like it was one of the most engaged, most responsive pictures
because it's real
of just like a backyard of a house, and it's real, and it's a lot of people are probably just finding out about manifestation and goals and stuff like that. So they're like, oh man, he's into manifestation. Like I'm into that. And so they relate on that level. And it's just like, it just allows you to just like.
Dude, I think you're right. I think people are tired of just these highlights and just this curated thing where it's like, they get it. They know what it is, but they want to know deeper. Know that you have that dog. Know that you might have stepped in dog shit or whatever it might be. It's like,
well, with us too, is, we know that everybody showcases just the highlights. And so we try. It's hard because you don't always get content of like the bloopers or like not the bloopers, but like the mistakes, the low lights. And so, but we try to give like we'll show you like, we're not printing in a high tech facility with like automatic machines and robots like folding the garments and stuff like that. We're printing in like a 500, like a space half the size of this space, and it's dirty, and the wash houses are dirty, and out come these like shiny garments, but it has to go through like some dirty low, like I don't know, just dirty facilities to like produce these shiny garments. And so we try to just give as honest of a sneak peek into our lives as possible. I wish that I could show more of the stumbles and the hurdles. It's just hard to do that unless you have a camera crew following you 24/7, because unfortunately a lot of those happen like first thing in the morning or last thing at night. So,
and that's the last thing you want to do is like broadcast that shit when it does happen, which is, it's kind of a natural thing.
It is the last thing that most people want to showcase, but I want to showcase some of it, like if it makes sense to, because I don't want people like to have this facade of like what they think this industry is. And it's a lot of like, and especially from like my stance, like I probably had it, I won't say I've had it worse than a lot of people, but I've had like a lot of situations that were pretty negative and could have derailed me from like pursuing anything. Just from like, I've had like brands that wanted to fight me because of this and that, or like said they wanted to fight me and wouldn't get on the phone. But with us, like
but that stuff doesn't come out in sometimes when we're talking about your story.
So
and stuff
that
like
it's not like, and these are like big brands that everybody shops with now. And when we first hit the scene, we had an issue they had an issue with us for whatever reason. Like they would say we copied this, or we would put out a product and they would put it out a week later and they would get mad at us for whatever reason. And it's just like a lot, like I had this issue with like,
oh yeah, I want to hear this. Okay.
Well, I had this issue with like 5-6 different brands, and these are people that like, These are people that are running like multi-million-dollar like fashion brands.
It's like when shit like that happens, it almost feels like you can't, or like you won't succeed at it in a certain way. Like it feels like.
Well, and also too, like this was when I first started manufacturing in LA. And LA, even now, like this was 4 years ago, but LA now still has like all of the energy in fashion right now. I mean, obviously there's like Italy and like stuff like that too, where like Virgil and everybody makes their stuff. But
Why aren't you in New York for fashion?
just because, like, for one, I don't want to live in New York anymore. I used to, but two, LA, LA is a little bit like. I mean, honestly, I think LA is more affordable than New York for production. I haven't. So basically, what stopped me from, like I told you early, I was working with the guy who was making Kith stuff in New York.
Yeah.
And that situation didn't end very well.
Okay.
And unless you're like in that scene and know a lot of the places to go, it's even in LA, if you don't know where to go, like even if you do know where to go, it's not that easy to just walk in and like start production with somebody. And so we stopped producing in New York, and we were kind of at a standstill like for like a few months and didn't know what to do. And then I have a friend who has a brand in Vegas, and he's still manufacturing in Vegas, but he was like, yo, like his store was carrying us at the time, premium. His store was carrying premium. And he was like, yo, like what's up with the brand? And I told him like we were having these issues with production. And he was like, well, like we do enough business together. Like the more you can put out product, the better it is for me because I make money off your product. He's like, why don't you just produce at the factory we use? And so he connected us, which is really rare.
Nice.
And in fashion.
Yeah, because you even said yourself you don't really tell people about your dudes.
Yeah, you can come to me for your production, but I don't just give you the keys to it.
It should be like that though.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just like I worked hard to get those relationships, but and just luckily like Crooked, shout out Crooked. It's funny his name's Crooked, but he's like one of the best dudes I know. But so luckily he handed me his factory. And we were just kind of off to the races.
Wow.
But then there was a company in LA that was producing like a lot of these top brands that are out now. And they were like a retainer-based program where you pay them X amount a month and they help you develop your collection like the proper way. So
Nice.
like I would come to them with my designs and say like, this is what we want to do. These are the colors. Like this is the type of fabric. And they'd be like, okay, well, you should use this type of fabric because it's going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to take the color better and dye and et cetera, et cetera.
They're not just taking your money.
Debatable, but
okay. Well, at least I care maybe a little bit more.
Well, so like at first it seemed like that.
Okay.
And basically you pay them just for expertise. That doesn't include the clothing. So you pay them X amount of thousands a month. And that's just for them to kind of like consult on where you should, like they'll kind of refer you to fabric places or like factories and dye houses and stuff like that. So they kind of give you like, they gave me the tools. And we use them for, we probably use them for like 15 months. And I mean, you can just say on the low end, we were paying them $3,000 a month. So you can just do the math on 3,000 times 15 months. But we paid them more than 3,000 at certain times. But in doing that, they were also producing some of like the top brands, like I said, that are even out still now. And there was just like a lot of like fashion is just like everything else. Like, the moment I see something in the world, somebody else is seeing something at the same time and they're thinking of the same idea, unfortunately. And so I'm not naive in knowing that there's a thing called coincidence. Now, granted, there are...
It's actually called universal thought is the term for something like that.
You just taught me something. But a lot of people don't a lot of people don't understand that. Now, granted, there is like straight plagiarism. I think that just shut off.
Oh shit. Ooh. Yeah, sorry guys. Battery died right there, which means that we're definitely breaking records on the podcast.
Well, I just looked at the clock and it's 5 and we started at 2. So I don't know if like time moved forward.
Yo, okay, we probably should wrap this up.
Yeah, it didn't seem like 3 hours. But
yo,
I think I was talking.
Do you just want to wrap that point up real quick?
I'm trying to think of what that was.
That's okay.
Oh, it was so basically like
what was it?
Oh, we were talking about universal thought.
Oh yeah.
And I was saying that there's a fine line between, or not a fine line, but there's universal thought, like you said, where people see something and get inspired and kind of come up with a similar idea. Then there's also just straight plagiarism. And so I'm not naive in knowing that, but I also know that I'm not plagiarizing. Like I have enough ideas in my head to be trying to copy what somebody else is doing. And so we just had like some instances where like this is when emojis were like first coming out, and we did a necklace with the 100 symbol. And like a couple weeks later, another brand did it. And I'm not saying like I even emailed the guy and told him like, because our customers saw when he posted it and they were basically saying that he copied us. Oh. And I'm like, I emailed him and I'm like, don't take like what they're saying as my word. Like, I know there's this thing called coincidence and like, whatever, like it happened. So, I'm like, maybe we do something bigger with this or whatever. He didn't respond. He just blocked me. And
that's so petty.
Yeah, that's one instance. And another one was where we created a short similar to a pant that someone had created, but I had never heard of this brand. And I actually, once I found out about the brand a little bit later and bought 2 of their jackets, one for me, one for Tyler. And I tagged them. Like, actually, I posted it, tagged them, and then I DM'd them like, yo, like, great work on this, because I wasn't doing what they were doing at the time. And I guess they went through and looked at my page, and then they saw the short that we created that was similar to the pant, and they thought that we copied them.
So did they try to sue you or something?
No, they didn't try to sue, but honestly, I don't even know, like, they basically commented and was like, this is hilarious or something kind of like sarcastic, like
it's being a dick basically.
Yeah, but through the grapevine, I was hearing that they were saying like all of this stuff and whatever. I reached out to them like, yo, like let's get on the phone. Like I'll tell you, like it is coincidental that we did a similar product, but like it's a zipper, like,
well, so the idea of universal thought is that when someone has a thought, it's never, and I'm probably wrong, like everything anyways, but the idea of universal thought is that when someone has a thought, it kind of just goes into the universe, and that it hits everyone else, and everyone either sometimes they don't execute on it or whatever it is, but whenever that thought happens, that it universally now exists,
right? And
because of that, everyone it might have come to the same conclusion on that.
That's I'm gonna have to read up on that one.
Yeah, please do, because I'm not 100% factual kind of guy.
But yeah, that was that, and then there were a couple others that are with brands that everybody knows. And
cool, man. Well, hey, let's go ahead and wrap this up now.
For sure.
3 hours is fucking epic, dude. Talking to you for 3 hours was really cool.
Yeah, that was. I thought it may have been like an hour and a half. I didn't know that was like 3 hours.
Yeah, I only tried to wrap it up earlier because I saw you looking at your phone. I was like, oh man, I know.
Because I was getting a call, but then I just looked and I have like 26 texts. But
dude. All right, well, guys, please go check him out. If you don't know about him, go check out Dice Starts Monday. Go check out his personal page, importantly, and I will link all of that below in the description. And now I'm gonna get robbed. So this is tight.
That's where the show gets real.
No, actually, no, that's the thing you designed that you were posting about.
Yeah,
that's tight.
Had to get ready for New York. There's a little cold up there.
That's cool, man. Can I see the side of it real quick? Oh yeah, and that's that ethos you guys had when you posted it. That I really love. That's sick, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we just like I said, well, one of the things in the bio is like we're we're a creative hub that isn't necessarily just focused on creating clothing, like just creating product in general. And whether it's a ski mask or a skateboard or necklaces, jewelry, like candles, furniture, uh like plant vases and just whatever, like we're fascinated with creating and in any capacity, even creating on this today.
Word.
So yeah, that's you'll see like as we progress, you'll see like a lot more of those like out of the norm products from us. But that was the whole thing is like create something that doesn't limit us to just this because we're more than just this. So
Oh man, dude, I can't wait to see.
yeah,
I'm
it'll
excited.
be fun.
Word. All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's the angle. Peace.